The following is an exclusive high-definition presentation of the Little 500 on HDNet. Since 1951, springtime in Bloomington, Indiana has meant one thing: the Little 500. From Bill Armstrong Stadium at Indiana University, speed, strategy, crashes, and the taste of victory. The world's greatest college weekend concludes with the running of the men's Little 500. Next on HDNet.
Rated team ever, the Cutters, the winners of the 58 men's Little 500. Springtime in Bloomington, home of the Hoosiers, and a tradition that has spanned nearly 6 decades, the Little 500. The women's race yesterday, the men's action today as the riders loosen, and it's a pinnacle event of the world's greatest college weekend here on campus, the 59th edition of the Little 500. Hello and welcome to Bloomington, Indiana. I'm Rich Cellini. This part of the country loves racing, whether it has 4 wheels on an Indy car or in today's instance 2 wheels and a bicycle and a quarter-mile cinder track. One of sport's great traditions, the Little 500, the men's race, coming your way on HDNet. We welcome in the second member of our broadcast team, a man who raced with Lance Armstrong. And you talk about wonderful races throughout the world, and you've been to so many of them. This stands up against all of them.
Rich, I've been to the Olympics. I've done some of the biggest bike races in the world, but the thing that's really missing from my resume is a Little 500, because I'm telling you, this is one of the best crowds for a bike race anywhere in the world.
Dylan, you bring up a great point. This race, the biggest collegiate race in America, yet it's only open to Indiana students.
Yeah, that's right. You know, it's funny because I always joke about coming out of retirement and coming back to school to do the Little 5, but you're right. It's only for the students here, and it's an amazing honor that they'll share for the rest of their lives.
And you talk about students and alumni, and what a wonderful weekend this is. We welcome in a former rider in the 500, Jason Sonnenborn, also an all-star rider. What a phenomenal weekend that is unique to Indiana.
Oh, it really is. As a 4-time rider, it was all about fitness. It was all about preparing your team. As president of the Riders Council, I realized this is all run by students. The Student Foundation, they volunteer for this. It's a leadership opportunity for them, and they've put on a wonderful event since 1951. This is our 59th running.
And think about also all the scholarship money that you have raised, well over $1 million.
Sure. All of this proceeds from today's race go to working students, and that just goes to show, right, this much of a bigger picture here at Indiana University. It's really a chance to showcase Indiana University to the nation today.
And if you ever come out to the Little 500, you want to be with Jason. He knows everybody. You're like the mayor around here.
It's a bit of homecoming for us, right? So we get a chance to see former riders in the pits as coaches and then also as fans. It really is like homecoming.
Let's take a look at some of the other great traditions tied to this weekend and the Little 500.
Little 500 is one of IU's biggest traditions. It's been going on for over 50 years now.
The Little 500 is really an interesting event because it's an intramural event, but it's unlike any other intramural event around.
Indiana University has a really strong intramural program, whether that be with basketball or football or whatever, but that really pales in comparison to the Little 500.
Honestly, I didn't know much about it coming into school as a freshman, but first time I was here at the race, my freshman year, it just kind of encaptured me, the whole atmosphere, and just seeing like how much work and dedication these riders put into it.
It was started by a guy named Howie Wilcox. He noticed the high population of students riding bikes around campus, and he decided it'd be a good idea to start a bike race for it.
I'm starting to get a bigger grasp rather than it's just, a fun weekend or out there to ride a bike. Like, it's an amazing event. It raises a ton of money for scholarships. They give out like $34,000 scholarships every year, so it's huge, and it's awesome to be really a part of the history because it really is a defining moment in IU's history.
The culture of Little 500 IU is like so big. I mean, like I said, it's more than a bike race. I mean, we do this all year round. And the people out here aren't really our competitors, they're more of our friends.
There's a lot of camaraderie involved in the Little 500 race day. You can see just all the fans in the stands, 18, 20,000 people, just all the different colors and everything. And it's really special.
What are some of the greatest memories you have of the Little 500?
I think one that stands out for me was the 50th running. It was the year 2000. We had all the Cutters alums back. We had the Delta Chi alum back. My team was on the pole. We finished in the top 5. We didn't win that day. Cutters won, but it was just a great celebration of former riders and realizing what quite a tradition this really is.
You know, we have definitely some talented riders standing on each side of me, but your friend, the greatest rider of all, Lance Armstrong, he's a big fan of this race as well.
Oh, absolutely. You know, he made a visit here a couple of years ago, and you know, he has a fixed gear single speed bike in his garage. I'm sure he wouldn't be adverse to coming out and giving a shot at the Little 5.
And I wouldn't bet against him.
No, definitely not.
You know, as we put our focus on some of the teams, we're going to take a look in depth. You know, a Fiji team that has won in every decade. This is their last chance to get one in this decade today.
Yeah, that's right. You know, history plays a big part in this race, and everybody talks, you know, what are their chances? What kind of forces are weighing on you as you come into this race? And this is going to be a big event for Fiji for sure.
Take a little more in-depth look at the Fiji team.
Fiji Cycling has a rich tradition. A lot of people know that we've won the race in every decade except for this decade, and so this is our last shot to win it.
It's huge every year, but this year I think especially a lot of the graduate brothers are expecting us to do well and hopefully getting a victory.
The fans are more excited. The current brothers in the house, the alumni are calling, emailing in on a more regular basis. I think the word is out that we're going to be a really competitive team this year, and I think there's an added element of, I guess, people are more anxious, people are more excited.
The one thing that we pride ourselves is our house, no matter what, always comes out to support, and we take pride in that at Fiji.
Behind me is what we like to call the purple haze.
You know, we really love it. It's not so much pressure, I would say. I would say it's more support. You know, however the race turns out, I know that I'm going to be able to go back and those guys are going to still be supportive of us.
Because they work so hard in the off season and on spring break, they don't get to do what normal college kids get to do. So we want to show them support and show them how much we appreciate them working as hard as they do.
Really, that's a positive thing for us. It keeps us motivated, it keeps us focused on our goal.
There is definitely some pressure, but I think that we've done everything we could this past off season and during the series events to fully prepare ourselves for the race, and all it comes down to is getting a little lucky, I guess, on race day.
We feel that we have 4 solid riders that can really get the job done.
It's a hard race to predict, but we've set ourselves up well so far this year, so we're very confident going into the race.
Best rider on campus, right here. You got it. You can borrow my hat. Yeah.
Walking away with a victory would be the sweetest thing ever.
It would mean so much to our house, our alum, and our program.
I couldn't think of any other capstone, not just for me, for some of my best friends in the house, and for really, I guess, all Fiji Nation. I think people are really amped up for this year.
It would be incredible. I think it would be something I'd look back on for the rest of my life as one of my greatest accomplishments.
And a good look at some of the people out and about supporting the Fiji team. Jason, you like Fiji's chances today?
Oh, I absolutely like Fiji's chances. They have a great support staff as coaches. They have Todd Cornelius in their pit, Jim Lohman, who won the race in 1996. From a rider's perspective, they also have David Ellis, who finished in the top 5 in ITTs and was also in the finals and missing out. So I think they have a really balanced team. They're known for being able to spin and being able to ride at the front. So I really do like their chances today.
You know, what we hope for is what we saw yesterday in the women's race, ending up with a group of teams bunched together and an exciting, race coming down to the end. But when the 4th member of our broadcast team raced, Hans, he turned it into a snoozer. He lapped everybody.
Yeah, every once in a while somebody sneaks away, and it's at the opportunists that really look for that opportunity. So, it's really difficult to say, okay, is it going to be a field sprint? Is it going to be a small group? Is it going to be one person that laps the field? I think today's weather conditions with the headwind down the backstretch is going to have a huge factor on the outcome of the race. We're going to see the field go gutter to gutter, as we call it, on the backstretch. stretch, but then get really straight and narrow on the tailwind section of the front stretch. So we're going to see a great race today.
Yeah, the fourth member of our broadcast team is a Little 500 Hall of Famer, Hans Arntzen, one of the all-time great riders in this event. Hello, Hans.
I'm here on the infield with Geraint Perry, local publisher of the website Bloomington Velo News. He's been following the Little 500 teams closely all year. He has the ins and outs of all the riders and racers. He's here to give his prediction for the top 5 teams that'll be in contention for the win today.
Yeah, I think this year, as ever, we've got the classic breakdown between the fraternities and the independent teams. On the independent side, you've got the Black Key Bulls and you've got the Cutters, of course, perennial contender Cutters. Very different strategies for these two teams. Black Key Bulls, they're a real strong time trialing team, and if they're going to win the race, they're going to get away solo. I think they haven't really got a guy to finish. On the other hand, the Cutters, they've got probably the strongest sprinter in the race in Eric Young. He was the fastest ITT guy by a long way this year, and if they're there on the last lap and Eric's on the bunch, they'll win. On the fraternity side, 3 teams that are in contention. Phi Deltas, who are on the pole team, they're a strong team, they're 4 deep. Last year, I think they will admit themselves they had a terrible race and they really want to make up for it. They're gunning for a good race this year. I think we just heard about Fiji in the feature, and they're 4 deep. They really come out of nowhere, a real dark horse team, but they've performed really well through the spring. They're obviously wearing the white jersey, so they're going to be looking to be strong at the end. Maybe their inexperience may count against them. And then finally, we've also got, of course, ATO, which you know well, Hans. 2 of the strongest riders on the track in Steve Zimber and Robert Perez. And if those 2 guys there at the end, they can certainly make some noise for sure. I got to add as well, though. You know, Pi Phi won the women's race yesterday, came out of nowhere. So maybe look for a team that's a little further down. Dodds Cycling might be one to watch.
That's right. Thanks a lot, Geraint. We'll see how well his predictions play out today. Let's get this race started.
Yeah, let's get it going.
All right, thank you, Hans. This is really a team event. Tell us about some of the specifics the teams have to do within this competition.
Great question, Rich. First of all, they have to do 10 exchanges. And so what is an exchange? This is like a track race without the baton. The bike is the baton. So they're handing off the bike. You'll see each team do at least 10 exchanges in the day. Teams of 4, 50-mile race, 200 lap, quarter-mile, cinder track. And I say cinder track because cinders are going to be on the ground, and they're also going to be in riders' arms, in their knees after the day, unfortunately. But it makes for great racing. It really does. It's a mix between an off-road race and a road race.
You look at 4 riders per team. How do you divvy up the laps from a strategy standpoint?
Well, absolutely. You know, we saw yesterday the team with the strongest individual woman actually wasn't even in contention for winning. So it actually really depends on all 4 riders to end up with the victory. So they definitely will come to the start of the race with a strategy, and we'll see all 4 riders have a play in winning.
And there also are certain rules that have to be followed, and if those aren't, there are penalties that can be incurred.
Sure, and we'll see a couple penalties before the race starts. One that's not on that list that you see a lot is creeping. So at times in this race, just like the Indy 500, there'll be a yellow flag out, and that's when somebody's on the ground and we have a caution situation. When the yellow flag is out, you're not allowed to improve your position to the leader. And that's one that comes up quite a bit for a penalty.
We've talked so much about the great traditions here at the Little 500, but there are some new kids on the block. Gray Goat, you gotta love the name. Here's a look.
Gray Goat's been around since last year.
Matthew Keel and Ryan Keel decided that they wanted to start a team. They couldn't really find an independent team that worked for them, and they didn't want to go towards the Greek life.
So we started looking around for different teams and different options. We just ended up really not liking what we saw, but we knew we wanted to be able to race together.
So we just thought it'd be best. We'd have our best chance of performing well, riding better as cyclists if we just kind of did our own thing.
They wanted to ride together, so they couldn't find a team that had 2 open spots. And then I had just been kicked around a couple of teams in the fall and hadn't found anything that really fit with me. So got with them, and then we picked up Nick and Chad, and those were our 5 guys last year.
That's how it started out. It was just an independent team. We didn't know each other until we were put together, and this is what's happened. We've kind of built it into a pretty cohesive team.
We came together last minute, but I had some riding experience. My brother does a lot of racing, so we had a good racing background. We were a pretty solid team. We really felt that we had enough talent that we could have done top 10.
Got 12th overall last year, which was really good. We made some rookie mistakes, that's for sure, as far as just lap strategy and race strategy.
We learned a lot from the race. going into it, you know, kind of just took it as any other bike race when really it's not.
You learn tricks. You learn, you know, not to break in the turns, to always keep your feet moving, watching out for other riders who are braking or slowing down. You also learn to communicate a lot more on the track. So I think after doing it for a year and bringing that back to the track after you know, your first year of experience is just huge. It's something you don't have to worry about now. It's become, I guess, second nature when you're on the track to do some of these things.
You got to eliminate those little mistakes. So I think it's huge. I mean, we definitely have much more experience this year.
We just need to ride a smart race. A lot of this race is being fast, and a lot of it is just, as I said before, strategy.
We need to ride a flawless race. Our exchanges need to be spot on. We don't need to lose any time. We need to stay away from the accidents and just, you know, give it our all. Everybody needs to be 100%.
It's going to be a rough competition. It's, you know, it's going to take our all. We practice day in and day out, so hopefully we can pull it off.
So hopefully between the 4 riders we got out on the track and a little bit of luck, we can cross the finish line first.
Yeah, I'm going to say come race day, we'll be on that lead lap, sprinting it out for the win, I think.
I think if we come back with anything less than a win this year, it would be a disappointment.
I'd like to say that we have a really good chance at winning. There's a lot of things that come into play in this race. I mean, obviously there's crashes. You could have one little slip up on exchange. You can do an exchange 1,000 times perfectly, but something could go wrong, a break too early, maybe you slide out a little bit. So, I mean, if luck's on our side, I think we have a really, really good chance at winning.
Armstrong Stadium will be packed today for the 59th Little 500. The riders are getting loose, the fans are filing in. Springtime in Bloomington, the tradition continues right here on HDNet.
We'll be right back with more Little 500 on HDNet. Welcome back to the Little 500 on HDNet.
The world's greatest college weekend here at Indiana. We're at Armstrong Stadium. The men's race today. We had the women's race yesterday for you here on HDNet and came down to, you know, as you guys had said, Dylan, it's going to end up with the pack of riders and you don't know who's going to win it, and you race that whole time and it comes down to that final lap, and it was a wonderful race.
Unbelievable. You know, we didn't even pick the winners. I don't think we talked about Pi Phis at all. And that's the important thing to remember is it doesn't matter what happens on laps 1 through 199. All that matters is that last lap. You know, we see some of these crashes, and those really have a big impact on the race. And the exchanges are really important to get nailed because if you know, Teeter, for example, had one of the strongest teams. However, bad exchanges, some crashes, and they were off the back. But obviously, Pi Phi was solid all day long. Caroline, you know, closing the final lap, comes on the outside there into the tailwind section. Wasn't even close. She had a 3 bike length gap. Plenty of time for celebration, which is the best way to win a race.
Sweet it is. Pi Beta Phi, their first ever Little 500 championship. And a look at our women's results from yesterday, and we go back downstairs to visit with Hans.
I'm going to compare the traditional professional road bike to the classic Little 500 track bike. With this specialized Roubaix, you've got multiple gears to use. 20 gears to switch through. It's a very advanced bike, carbon fiber. And another big factor is that you have hand brakes. This allows for slight braking in a pack. The biggest difference from the professional bike to the Little 500 track bike is that there are coaster brakes. This is the bike we all grew up on as a kid. Hit the pedals on the back to stop, and you're gonna skid. You also have no hand brakes. So it makes for very intense braking. You can't just feather the brakes a little bit. It's also a single speed bike. These riders are riding a 4618. This is a hard gear. They'll probably max out about 26, 27 miles an hour. This bike also has very big tires. This is in order to handle the cinder track that they're going to be riding on today. Specialized has also sponsored the race today. Each rider will be wearing one of these helmets. The difference is each rider has a different color helmet. We'll be able to spot them from the booth, tell you who's riding on the bike today. All right, thanks a lot. We'll send it back up to the booth.
All right, thank you, Hans. And the riders continuing to loosen as we get ready for the invocation, and that will be done today by Father Stan Dronkowski. The pageantry continuing here for the Little 500, the 59th edition here on HDNet.
Those bikes really are unique, Rich. I had the opportunity, I put one back together, an old 94 bike. We're going to go to the invocation, but just being able to ride those bikes, they're great to ride on the track, and they make for great town bikes once you graduate.
Let us pray. God all-powerful, on this beautiful day, we celebrate and thank you for your many great gifts. As we prepare to begin this race, we're aware of how you have brought this day into being. We begin by remembering all those who have preceded these men as athletes in the Little 500, and we're particularly mindful of Doug Tate, who raced for Delta Chi, and we remember all who have died. With a moment of silence, we commend them to your loving mercy. God, it is you who have given these men the strength, the stamina, the perseverance, and the vision that have brought them here. We thank you for the manifestation of your power through them. We pray that you keep them safe from all harm. We ask that your wisdom and goodness inspire them to race in integrity, aware of your presence and guidance. God, source of all hope, let your firm yet gentle arm guide these men today. Allow them to be filled with confidence in their best effort, to strive for perfection, to rejoice in excellence, and so ride the good race, aware that they are pleasing in your sight. Amen.
Please remain standing. Crowd still filing into Armstrong Stadium on what is an unseasonably warm day. Average temperature 67. We're going to be in the low 80s today.
Unbelievable. You know, not only is it a beautiful day, but we have a huge wind. You know, we talked about it all day yesterday. You can see the flag across the track is almost flat. And, you know, the heat coupled with the wind is going to have a real effect on the race, just both from the headwind section and then also the rider's ability to hydrate, right? They don't have water bottle cages on these bikes, so they're not able to drink during, so the exchanges are going to be that much more important. But unbelievably beautiful. Last year I think I had everything I had in my suitcase on me to keep warm, but today is just absolutely gorgeous.
Casey Jamerson with our national anthem.
As the Chief presents our national anthem.
Oh, see, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Casey Jamerson, ladies and gentlemen.
That gets the 20,000+ in attendance. On their feet, energy moving through the stadium as we approach the start of the 59th Little 500.
You know, it's hard. These guys are sitting here. They've been waiting all day, if not all year, for this race. And they've got to sit down here in the field, standing out there in the sun, waiting for the, you know, pomp and circumstance to continue and conclude. And I got to tell you, their nerves are crackling right now. And these guys just can't wait to get the race going.
Jason, this song by Straight No Chaser is for you.
That's right.
Back home again.
Yeah, they talk about the banks of the Wabash, right, and all the great things Indiana has to offer.
Nothing like it in sport.
Nothing really like it in sport. I agree with you. It's interesting for me to see. I remember Eddie Van Geist told me one time right before the start, he said, "What are you doing standing up, Jason?" He said, "Sit down, take a little bit of weight off those legs. You're going to need them today." And as I looked down here today, I saw Cutters riders sitting down and a number of guys just trying to stay fresh, you know, trying to stay relaxed before the start.
Yeah, you know, it's actually really important, especially on a day like this where it's hot and windy, that the riders conserve all their energy before, you know, everything that leads up to the actual start can really have an effect on what happens on the last lap.
Here's the line that everybody waits for from Dick McCaig, the Dean of Students.
June 30th, please say thank you to Dick McCaig.
Ride smart, keep your head up, good luck, and Godspeed. Now the 3 words the student bodies wanted to hear: party responsibly tonight. And for the riders, gentlemen, mount your Schwinn bicycles.
We're moments away from the start of the 59th Little 500 here on HDNet. A quick break, and the race will begin when we come back to Armstrong Stadium.
We'll be right back with more Little 500 on HDNet. Welcome back to the Little 500 on HDNet.
Moments away from the start of the 2009 edition of the Little 500. A look at our starting grid, gentlemen.
Yeah, and you can see them lined up just like the Indy 500. You got 11 rows of 3 there on the front. You see the Cutters, won 40% of their races, winningest team in Little 500 history. Look for a really good showing for them today. Clayton Feldman's going to start for them on the bike. Second row, that was Team Major Taylor. Team Major Taylor, of course, in honor of Major Taylor, a great velodrome bicycle racer in the early 1900s. Phi Kappa Psi, they've got 7 wins, a great tradition. Alpha Tau Omega, also look for a good day out of them. Here's a good one, Vicious and Delicious. They are the Jimmy John's delivery guys on campus. Spent a lot of times on their bikes, so they entered Little 5 this year.
So we talk about the pack that oftentimes this race comes down to. How many teams, in your estimation, have that, if they can stay out of trouble, and we know that's a large part of it, have strong enough riders to be in that pack? How big do we expect it to be?
Each year is a little bit different, Rich. You know, we had a little pack yesterday. Last year, of course, we had a breakaway finish with the Cutters. We've had as many as 11, but I expect maybe 5 or 6 teams on the lead lap. So you really just don't know. There's so much that goes into this. A lot of luck and a lot of variables with exchanges throughout the day. The hot temperatures and also the strong field.
Interesting. We have 1 lap until the start, and you know, this is nothing you see in any other type of bike race. It's just unbelievable that they have to do these parade route laps.
Quick check of pre-race penalties.
Yeah, and you can see nobody's happy about this. During the spring, you have to do a number of things. Rookies have to log a certain number of hours at the track, so they're prepared. You also have to attend meetings, right? Safety is an issue here, and so if you don't meet any of these requirements, you can get a penalty. So none of those teams are happy about that. They'll serve that penalty just past the start-finish line within the first 20 laps of the race.
Right. So it's absolutely crucial when you serve that penalty, right? If you do it at the wrong time, you can just instantly be out of the race.
Yep, they're required to do it in the first 20 laps, and they want to do it when the pace isn't super fast.
And here we come with the start.
Around turn number 4.
If they're lined up, they'll get the green flag. There's the green flag.
And we're underway in Bloomington.
Cutters immediately going to the front to take responsibility of the race. You know, they come into today's race as one of the favorites, wearing the yellow jersey signifying that they won last year. And they're going to immediately take the race to the rest of the guys. You know, you see the field, and it's going to bunch up a little bit there, and the reason is because it's a headwind, so it's easier to move up.
Clayton really went into that first lap going in hot. He decided he was going to drive that first lap.
Oh, absolutely.
It'd be great to get a watch on this.
Absolutely. I bet you it's going to be one of our fastest laps, especially now they'll come in to this tailwind section at full speed. We've got the Phi Delta Theta, you know, now they're going to take a pull. And you're going to see, and you see the Cutters rider, he just slotted right into the 3rd place because he wants to stay right up there at the front. And we'll see, it would be surprising to see just a couple of guys taking the race responsibility right at the start.
Well, right away, you have all the dynamics of what it looks like a hard race. You see some guys working together and pulling through. That's Black Key Bowles pulling through right now. Really driving it home into turn 4. They really drove it down the backstretch.
Black Key Bowles in the lead.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I mean, these guys are really going full gas. And you know, it's also important to note that there might be somebody sitting at the back that's kind of rolling the dice, thinking, you know what, I'm just going to gamble and stay back here and not use up any energy, but you know, they're basically subject to a crash.
How much of your strategy entering this race is predetermined?
You go with a lot of flow, and I think each team's different. But one thing I can say, when you map out 200 laps in this bike race where there's so many things that can happen, a lot of times it's going to change, so you better be able to react.
In any of your races, did you come in with the plan and be able to carry that entire plan for the entire 200 laps, or are there always adjustments to be made?
No, it's big enough. You have an idea how many laps you're going to ride, but it's always going to change based on wrecks. People get injured. You see some dehydration, and you go on feel a lot. They'll look at the riders, they'll ask you how you feel, right? And if you can do some more laps, go ahead and do more.
Yeah, you know, the race has a general rhythm. You know, we saw these first couple of laps where we're 3 or 4 laps into the race, and it was really fast. And now the guys are kind of settling down a little bit, looking around, trying to maintain position, not use up too much energy. You know, the pack it's pretty tight right now.
How many laps do you want to get out of your starting rider?
You're going to see between 8 and 20. I'd look for Clayton, and that's Ted Bogelin on the bike for Fiji. I'd look for them to do anywhere between 10 and 20. Now remember, Cutters has to serve a 2-second penalty in these first 20 laps, so that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Geez, you just see some fit guys on the bike right now driving. They're running about 35-second laps. That's Phi Delta Theta pulling through. Cutters is on their wheel in yellow. We haven't seen a wreck yet, guys, and so here we are on lap 4. Look for one between 5 and 10. See a number of people raising their hands. I think that means there's a bike problem.
Yep, you see one of the mechanics. I just saw a mechanic run across the track to bring out one of the extra bikes.
Dons had touched on at the top of our show just how unique these bikes are.
Oh yeah, I mean, you know, one gear, coaster brakes. They're using a 46-18 gear.
And you come flying into the pitch, you slam the brakes, and that's how exchanges are going to happen. And you do that when you're completely gassed, right? When you're completely exhausted, you got to focus enough to do an exchange. So you start to see the first couple. Here's Acacia. I think they had a bike problem, and he went by. Maybe his bike's looking a little bit better. Phi Delta's riding a great first set there.
Yeah, you know, since it's a little bit slower right now, and the field is a little bit more bunched up, they're riding high up into the cinders, so to speak. But, you know, we're going to see some of the teams do an exchange here.
Acacia making a little bit of sprint come in for the exchange.
Acacia rider's got a great gap. They're doing a bike exchange here to get a new bike. I think they did have a bike problem.
Yeah, great exchange. Put his teammate right back in, you know, towards the front of the group, so he doesn't really have to work too hard to get back in there. I'm surprised to see teams doing exchanges this early in the race.
Clean start to this 59th Little 500. A couple of exchanges on the backside.
Absolutely. I just saw one of the riders crash into one of the other riders who had just done an exchange. You know, it just shows you how dangerous the pits are. You know, Cutters still on the front. I mean, these guys are just really taking responsibility for the race. And sometimes, you know, that has a big effect on everybody else, too.
Well, they're two-time defending champions, so not only are they marked, but they come in with the confidence that they can win today.
Absolutely.
They don't lack confidence.
You know, and that plays a big role in the race. When you come into the race with the expectation to win, oftentimes you put yourself in the right place to win, and that's half the battle with this race, especially with the crashes that often happen in the opening laps of the race.
All right, here we go. We've got a little acceleration. This is Grey Goat Cycling, one of the teams that was featured. There's our first wreck right behind him, which you guys didn't see. Grey Goat's coming in for an exchange.
Yep, and so are Cutters.
Well, this is a great time to serve a penalty and also to do that first exchange. Here.
And a yellow flag comes out.
So, Jason, can you serve your penalty on the yellow flag?
You can serve it under a yellow flag. You can't improve your position to the leader. So what you'll do is you'll drop off a little bit and hope that you can bridge that gap as soon as it goes green again.
Sure, and if you can get a jump on the flag, so to speak, right?
Sure.
Before the actual green comes up, maybe jump it a little.
Jason, tell us specifically how they serve that 2-second penalty.
You'll see there's a penalty box just on the other side of the start-finish line. There's an official there. And what they'll need to do is come into that penalty box, stop. They'll be timed, sit there for that amount of time, and then they're free to go.
You know, here's a replay of the crash, and it's clear that they were just, you know, riders gutter to gutter, and you get a little overlap and a touch of the wheels, and instantly you got 10 guys on the ground. You know, in what we call pavement surfing.
Here we go. Cutters is serving their penalty right now.
Yep.
They've got their fastest man on the bike, Eric Young, and he did that. You see, 2 seconds isn't much time.
No, and you know, he's in right at the back of the field, so to speak. So it's going to be easy for him to maintain it. And you know, you'll notice that he's maintaining the gap, right? So he's not creeping. Yeah.
He got a little hot coming out of that penalty box there for a minute. He had to check himself. I saw an official tell him to slow down, and that's good because that's that creeping penalty that you don't want to get.
That's right.
Imagine a lot easier said than done, getting in this type of event and this type of atmosphere and somebody telling you to dial it down a little bit.
And it's all human, you know, human judgment and human error as well. They're looking at you, right? There's no chips out there on the bikes or anything like that. So you've got to use your discretion. Here we go. We're back under green.
Yeah, here we go. And And
green flag being waved.
Some of the other teams are really going to try to take advantage of the fact that you have cutters off the back. You know, and some of these other teams that are favorite, trying to bridge the gap.
I don't think, yeah, Eric Young's not going to have any problem bridging that gap for the cutters, but the other teams are smart. So you see Black Key Bulls, that's DU going in for an exchange. Delta Upsilon had a good spring and has a good history here in the 2000 decade. He's got a huge gap.
Yeah. Takes a peek over his shoulder.
I tell you, as a coach, that's one of the things I don't like to see, though. You get a gap and you got to go head down, right?
Yeah, you got to commit yourself. Don't look back. Although sometimes, you know, it's funny. You look back, pretend like you're letting off the gas a little bit, but then you punch it again. I've seen that move work before.
And Upsilon takes an exchange on the backside.
Oh, and there's cutters right back on the front. Eric must have done a terrific job.
Absolutely, right where he needs to be, right at the front.
That's really not what that Phi Delta Theta rider wants to see. He doesn't want to look over and see Eric Young.
No.
Pete Stevens, a rider for Delta Upsilon, in the lead.
Good exchange by Fiji right there. Just, you know, right back in at the back of the bunch. Easy to get back on. Sigma Phi's back on. You know, you see the rider from Cutters kind of looking around, seeing what's going on behind him, seeing who wants to come up and play. Maybe he can coax somebody else to come up and share some of the work with him.
There's the Delta Upsilon rider holding a little lead, keeping his team safe early, getting some laps under his belt.
Yeah, you know, he's got some
FaceTime is what he's got.
Yeah, absolutely. A little camera time for him.
Well, so this is a good time to talk about drafting. You know, you saw somebody sit up. We got a heavy wind today.
Absolutely.
So he's sitting up. He's saying, I don't want to expend too much energy out there all alone. They're letting me dangle. I'm going to come back in the field. So Dylan, yeah, how much of a play is drafting, and with this crosswind that we have on the backstretch, what are you going to see these guys doing?
Well, you know, you saw the rider. He decided, look, it's too early for me to burn all my matches and try to ride away all by myself into this big headwind. So he's just going to sit up, wait for the field to catch him, and then jump back in.
That's Delta Tau Delta coming in for an exchange. They've really had a good spring.
Yeah, nice
great exchange.
Matt Niebler, and he hands it off to
a little bit of a fumble there. It's definitely not the way you want to get back on your bike. That could leave a mark.
And, you know, Fiji's just rolled it right after that exchange. Fiji's is a team that's really comfortable riding on the front. Great springs, great turnover that these guys have on the pedals, and he's riding pretty fast coming in for this exchange.
Well, absolutely, and you saw the Cutters rider basically take advantage of that and bridge up to him, and you know, oftentimes that's how breakaways form.
Fiji's looking really good. That's Rhett Dineline getting on the bike for them. Good first set out of Ted.
Let's go downstairs and check in with Hans.
The Acacia pits right now. They're one lap down, but their rider's doing all right. He's back on the trainer. He hasn't even been to the medical tent.
What happened in the turn there? Just a huge pile up in the cluster, and somebody in front of me kind of cut in front of me a little bit, and just caught his back wheel, rubbed tires, went down. So
you guys are fighting back hard. You've caught back up with the pack and are just one lap down. What are you guys going to do to try to make up that lap today?
Just ride smart the rest of the way. Can't make any more mistakes. If we do that, then we could probably get back on the lead lap, hopefully. So that's our goal right now, just ride smart.
All right, thanks a lot, and good luck today.
Thank you, Hans.
So you know, we see Acacia now. They're a lap down. They're back in the field, but they're a lap down, so they've got some significant ground to make up. I don't know, Jason, has anybody ever come back from being a lap down?
What you do is you pay attention to the teams that are on your lap. So you may not be on the lead lap, but you may be one lap down. You know the other team's on that lap, and you're looking to beat them, right? And then you're just trying to get time back throughout the day. Right. So that's the kind of game that you play.
I thought one of the parts of looking at where all different teams have started throughout history, where you start with regard to pole position.
You know, you see there then the Cutters rider taking advantage of one of the other teams doing a burnout to make the exchange. He followed the wheel, and all of a sudden he's got a 5-second gap. He's off the front all by himself.
Eric's hopping around a little bit.
Yeah, he's going to come in and do an exchange. It's going to be a great exchange because he basically is going to put his teammate right back in at the front of the group.
Hands off to Michael Schroeder.
You know, that's just a textbook exchange right there.
Patch Pocket Schroeder getting on the bike for cutters. He, you know, he's going to like that. This is his first year in the race, so it's great to get on the bike. You've never ridden in the race before, and what do? You start on the front, right? That's a great first set.
Absolutely.
How long does it take in a race before all of the butterflies and the nervousness goes away, and then it's just into competition?
It really happens as soon as you hop on the bike. I mean, there's no question that it's game time, right when you get on the bike. So if they don't go away right then, you're in trouble.
Yeah, that's right. They're never going to go away. But it's always good to have a little bit of nerves. It, you know, kind of keeps you on the edge. We have the yellow flag again. Looks like we have one of the riders down on the infield. You know, sometimes what happens, you can see a little bit of a cross up there. Just shot all the way on the inside, and what really hurts about that is that you just hit your shoulder and your collarbone right on that cement gutter.
Oh, that's poor communication. What you saw was a different team, somebody that had done an exchange, was on the track and didn't stand still. It kind of got in the way of Dodds House trying to do an exchange.
Yeah.
You know, that's got to hurt.
Oh, I'll tell you, that absolutely has to hurt. You know, fortunately, they have a great medical team here on the infield, so all the riders are really well looked after. You know, in some of the professional men's races, you know, you're out on a road out in the middle of nowhere, and I've had accidents before where you're waiting an hour before the ambulance shows up, so it's actually pretty good that they have medical care right here for the riders. So we're under yellow right now while they try to help this guy out, and, you know, we're burning up laps here under yellow. Everybody kind of gets to take a breath of fresh air, relax a little bit, kind of regain their composure. You know, some of these crashes just really have a huge effect on the race.
And they have been part of the Little 500 for all 59 years. Here's a look at some of the more notable crashes throughout history of this great race. 2009 Little 500, Rich Cellini, Dylan Casey, Jason Sonnenborns, Hans Aronson, the Hall of Famer, down on the infield as well. And we take a look at some of those crashes. You involved in any of those tangle-ups in your time competing, Jason?
Yeah, we went down a couple of years. One year we finished 10th after we wrecked, so it's going to knock you off the lead lap, but it's not going to end your day, right? You need to stay out there and you need to compete. A little adversity is a good lesson, I guess, in life.
Yeah, let's just hope that this rider is okay. You know, it's almost a sure thing to say that you've got a broken collarbone or something. You know, ultimately it's kind of like one of those things that all cyclists break. You know, if you haven't broken your collarbone, you're gonna break your collarbone, unfortunately.
How many times you break yours in all your competitions?
Yeah, I've broken mine a couple, so you know, hopefully I've gotten some of those out of the way.
Yeah, you really just hope that the neck brace was a precautionary measure there.
Yeah,
certainly
absolutely.
our thoughts go out to him.
Absolutely.
Really a great scene there going down the backstretch when you see the American flag flying in the air.
Yeah. So these guys are just all kind of relaxing.
We have a moment. We'll recap some of the rules of the Little 500.
Yeah, sure. So each team has two bikes. And what you'll see throughout the day is you'll see rider exchanges, you'll also see bike exchanges. They're required to do 10 of those exchanges. And then really the other key rules, well, of course, you get 200 laps, 50 miles. It's not a distance race. It's not a stage race, 150 miles in the Tour, but what it is it's a single speed bike where you're turning out really fast intervals throughout the day.
That's right. And in fact, we have a whole army of people below us in the press box, which are tasked with kind of keeping track of how many exchanges each team has done, how many laps each rider has done. You know, are they creeping, or are they, you know, have they served their penalties, and so on and so forth, and as well as keeping track of who's in what position.
The minimum is 10 exchanges. What would an average exchange rate be for a team?
They're obviously going to do more than 10. They'll do something up to 20 or 25. It really depends on the strength of the team, or if you're a balanced team, you want to use all your riders and rest your sprinter at the end. If you're a team with just one superstar that has to do a lot of the laps, you'll see them log a lot in one set and do fewer exchanges.
How did the 10 exchange rule come into effect? Like, what's the purpose of that rule? We're back to green now. And one of the things is Fiji actually was caught up in a crash, and they're significantly off the back. You see the rider coming up the backstretch, and he's going to have to close that gap immediately.
That's really significant because Fiji is one of our favorites. Phi Delta probably knows that, and everybody's fresh right now, so they're legging it out. That's Baxter Burnworth on the bike for Phi Delta. He's going to pull off.
Right, and Cutters is going to come through and take a pull. And so essentially what happens is you have 4 or 5 guys all doing the work while you have one Fiji rider trying to make up that ground all by himself. And so it's a lot harder because of the headwind at the backside.
Cutters, Gray Goat, Cycling, and then Phi Delta Theta.
Yeah, Gray Goat riding really well so far. And I mentioned that's Patch Pocket Schroeder's first race this year. It's good that he got to log a couple laps under yellow, and then he got to ride on the front, so he's going to feel great. Phi Delta also look real good. Every time I look up, I see them on the front.
Yeah, these guys are looking around. They'll take a pull and look around because they want to stay up at the front. They don't want to do too much work, but they want to be able to pull and then slot back in the top 3 or 4.
Delta Upsilon to the front.
And it looks like Delta Upsilon's going to do an exchange. Fiji's also just done an exchange. Obviously, they need to use the whole team right now to get back in this race.
Here's DU's exchange. They've gotten some good gaps already right out of the start.
Yeah, excellent exchange.
Well done. You see how much you have to communicate, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, there's so much happening at one time. 2 teams doing exchanges on the same side of the track.
It's total mayhem in the pits sometimes. These guys, one rider is coming in to make an exchange at the same exact time that another rider is coming out of his exchange. And oftentimes you can see the wheels cross up.
So you talked about the army of people below us. They're just down there trying to understand what's going on. What they do is they keep track of laps and understand what teams are on what laps. They count each and every lap.
Yeah, that's right.
One of the other interesting notes is that in this race, you don't have, most people would expect, the clip-in shoe. These people are racing in tennis shoes.
Sure, it's a mix between a track race and a bike race, maybe cyclocross if you will, but you're hopping off the bike going full speed, so you need to have tennis shoes on, something you can run in. You want to keep your momentum.
Phi Kappas.
Phi Kappa Psi with really a great history. Dave Blaze rode for that house, and with their 7 wins, they're looking to carry on that tradition. They are today.
How about, what you think of anybody who's ever ridden a bicycle to exhaustion? And when you get off that, I think the last thing you would ever want to do, or maybe even could you actually run like all these competitors have to do? Those are 2 different motions when your legs feel like rubber bands.
You're exactly right. You'll see, and what they'll do is they'll hop on trainers when they're done just to kind of flush them out and to relax.
Yeah, that's exactly why you see some of the exchanges go so wrong, because the riders coming into the pit and have to come to a standstill, hand the bike off, and then the other guy's running to get back on. It's really an art form. These guys spend a lot of time to perfect the whole exchange in and of itself.
They do that all spring, and this is really kind of a great set here. That's team number 24, which looks like Sigma Alpha Mu. You know, he's got a lot of action on the bike right now. He's bouncing a little bit, but he's going fast, and that's the most important thing.
Yeah, he's going fast, you know, and he's coming in to do an exchange. And what's interesting is cutters are also coming in to do an exchange, but they didn't have to expend any extra energy because he got right on the wheel of the Sigma Alpha Mu rider as he was getting ready to make his exchange. So that's really a great strategy by the cutters right now. You know, we see the cutters getting right back in on the back of the bunch there without spending any extra energy, and that's especially important today with the headwind section.
There goes Grey Goat Cycling coming in. Black Keebles. There's Clayton on the bike for cutters. He was on the winning team last year and just brings a lot of experience back. He'll find his way back up into the front really quickly.
Yeah, thanks to Specialized this year for giving us the different colored helmets so that we can actually pick out which rider from which team is racing right at that time.
Makes life a little easier.
Absolutely, and you see Clayton, you know, doing some work to get back onto this lead peloton. It seems like we're still around 20 to 25 teams on the lead lap.
Well, and I'm really impressed with what Phi Delta was doing there. They sat up, but they made Clayton work to catch back up, which is, you know, that adds up during 200 laps.
Absolutely.
So Phi Delta's really riding well right now.
Well, and the Phi Delta coach is in the pit, and he's saying, hey, Cutters is off the back right now. Let's give it some gas a little bit and you know, see how much we can take off the top of the Cutters head.
The biggest collegiate bike race in the country. You have to be a student here in Indiana, but this is a lot more complex and in-depth than just getting your friends together for one weekend to race. How big of a time commitment is it?
Well, it's a huge time commitment. You ride year long, and then in the spring it really steps up. What you do is you use your Christmas break to go down and train, and you're doing base miles at that point. Spring break comes around, and that's right before qualification. So you go down and you start to do intervals and a lot of high intensity work. And what you need to do is you need to flush out your exchanges because you want to qual well and you want to start up in the front of the pack. Huge time commitment. It's 20 to 40 hours a week. So it really is like a second job, which teaches you how to balance priorities in life. And you do that with schoolwork and you do that with bike racing. So it really sets these guys up for a lot of success.
You know, it's great. I just saw the Major Taylor rider doing an exchange there. I noticed he's wearing shorts from Rockin' Republic. The jeans, of course. You know, for fans of domestic professional racing, Rockin' Republic is one of the great sponsors of a team here in America. A good friend and old teammate of mine, Freddie Rodriguez, is a member of that team, and it's great. He always has a new pair of jeans for me. I'm always appreciative of those guys.
Dylan knows who this team is because they're the most stylish team, and they roll in big SUVs, and they got a huge fan array. So Dylan's always kind of on the cusp and the edge of trend setting. So that's why he spotted that rock racing out there.
Well, I just like to give props to Michael Ball for getting involved in the sport and bringing something that was missing or lacking in the sport of bike racing.
Well, you know, Dylan yesterday was also the guy who noticed the colored chains and different colored shoelaces. I mean, he has a fine eye for fashion.
Well, you know, I have to say that my first year when I came here, I was really impressed with how serious these guys are. And it's those little details on race day that have, you know, a big impact on the outcome. So yeah, you know, these guys having color coordinated socks and shoes and chains, and you know, you might think that that's just for flash, but ultimately at the end of the day, it says a lot. It says, hey, we're serious. We've done our work. We're prepared. We're here, and we're ready to win. We're ready for the little 500.
I got to drop this, but Rich, one of the first times he came in town, he said we had to go shopping so that we could look good for the telecast. He told me that he and George Hincapie would do that before all their, you know, resting up before all their big races. So.
That's right. We're at lap 36 of the Little 500 from Bloomington, Indiana. One of the great spectacles in sport.
That's Team Major Taylor coming in for an exchange on the outside. I know we're going to break, but you guys are going to miss out on some great racing while we're away.
And we'll be right back with more of the Little 500.
We'll be right back with more Little 500 on HDNet. Welcome back to the Little 500 on HDNet.
Welcome back to Bloomington, Indiana, home of the Hoosiers. Rich Cellini, Dylan Casey, Jason Sonneborn, and Hans Arnson, the Hall of Famer, patrolling the infield. The world's greatest college weekend, the Little 500. 59th edition, started in 1951, and the celebration continues to grow and prosper.
Phi Kappa Psi doing an exchange there, another team on the back doing an exchange. Again, you know, we see Cutters and Fiji on the front again, and I just hope we don't make the same mistake that we made yesterday by talking about 1, 2, maybe 3 teams, and having one of the other teams who's been quietly sitting in all day long come around and win the race. But hey, that could happen today.
We've got a real balanced field. There's over 10 teams on the lead lap right now, so you're exactly right. Anything can happen. Black Key Bulls had told me early on that they were going to make this race hard. They have a real balanced team. They have 4 good riders. What I haven't seen is them on the front much so far. So look for them to maybe sit in and rest and mount an attack during the second half of the race.
Well, you know what happens sometimes when one team or 2 teams are really, you know, taking a lot of the workload on, what happens is that then everybody else is like, okay, hey, you take on all the work. We're perfectly happy to sit back here and watch you make the race. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, only the last lap is what counts.
Yeah, so what Black Key Bulls is doing right now is they've been covering. You know, you can see Grey Goat Cycling on the front. They've just been covering all the moves and sitting about 2nd or 3rd. Black Key's wearing that teal color jersey. Right, well, it looks like he's not gonna give any help on the front.
Wow, you know, it's just one of these riders crashed when they exchange, and you can just tell how much it hurts by how slow it takes him to get back up.
Looks like Delta Chi that went down. They're back in the race for the first time in a number of years.
Yeah, what happened? Why were they out? Just
well, the house was off campus. There was no house, so it wasn't his fault. Looked like it just kind of got pushed outside a little bit.
Yeah, you know, well, they're coming out into the this headwind section, and I think that's just sometimes causes the riders to overlap wheels a little bit. So Delta Chi.
Here's a look at D-Kai. He's gonna want to get off the bike.
Yeah, he wants off the bike, put in a fresh rider. You know, again, I can't say it enough that Cutters is just really paying attention, staying at the front, watching for riders doing exchanges and benefiting from that.
Team Major Taylor looks well as well. Fiji was actually Phi Gamma Delta. They were down. There was a wreck early. I know that they're strong, and they proved that they were strong just by catching back up, and they're riding on the front of the pack right now. Sitting in that 3rd spot wearing the white jersey. And the white jersey signifies that they've won the series events this spring. So there's 3 series events leading up to the race. There's individual time trials, 4-lap individuals, missing out, which is a sprinter's race, and also team pursuit, which is a 15-lap team set. And they, over those 3 races, points accumulated, they were the strongest team this spring.
Is that a pretty good indicator of a team that has a really realistic shot as far as the Little 500?
Great indicator of strength, great indicator. Yeah, so look for Fiji's. You know, we mentioned it earlier, they're trying to get their first win in this decade. They've had a great history of cyclists, and we'll see what they can do today.
Bike-to-bike exchange there for Black Key Bulls. Pretty clean, puts his teammate right in the back there. Just a small gap to close. You know, the hard thing about having your pit in the front stretch is that when you do the exchange, if you're not put in right away, you got to go into the headwind section on the backside. So maybe on this day, having a pit on the backside is actually better. It's hard to say.
One of the good things about being on the front is you're really in the action, right? So you're right by the start-finish line. You can also serve your penalty because your pit's close to the penalty. There's Phi Delta coming in for exchange. I think Phi Delta last won in 2001, won in 1996 with Joel McKay and Dan Posley, Rob Ramey. Actually, this is Sigma Chi coming in for an exchange. Sigma Chi, or no, I'm sorry, Phi Psi. Phi Psi and Acacia both coming in for exchanges.
And that one is clean.
It's good to see Sigma Chi back in the race. They won in the 1990s. They look like they have some fit guys, and they're riding really well today. You see that teal jersey going by real fast, trying to catch up.
So we're almost 50 laps into the race.
Slow race so far is what it is. Because of the wind, I think it's allowing a lot of teams to stay together. You see it splitting a little bit right now. Right as I say that, you can see Phi Delta Theta is off the front. Cutters has a rider out, but Clayton looks like he sees an opportunity to kind of follow Phi Delta for another lap. All right, it's really starting to get fun here.
Teams jockeying for position.
Yeah, Phi Delta's dropping it down the backstretch, and Cutter's closing the gap really quickly. Clayton's going to roar on by.
Clayton Feldman of the Cutters.
Yeah, you know, he's been really doing some strong sets out here today. Looks like they're going to do an exchange here.
And we'll go down to Hans, who's in the Cutters pit.
I'm down here in the Cutters pit. They're about to do an exchange right here. They've been riding great on the front all day. They made up their 2-second penalty really quickly. But I wanted to find out from the riders what it's like to be out on the bike. There are no water bottles on the bike. How dry is it out there?
It's pretty dry out. The wind's making it hard. It's a little dusty out there. It's making the mouth dry. It's hard to breathe. You know, your spit just gets built up and it starts to get in the way of your lungs, so it's making it difficult for sure.
Well, these guys are going to try to stay hydrated when they get off the bikes. They're doing well so far. Let's see how they can keep it up.
Thank you, Hans. How much more energy is this wind going to take out of the riders throughout the course of 200 laps?
Well, the wind is going to have a huge effect. You know, we talked about the lap times being a little bit slower, but that also means that when they're closing gaps and doing these exchanges, it takes that much more energy. So, you know, we could see a team or a rider who's really has a lot of endurance have an actual bigger advantage at the end versus, say, somebody who's a sprinter or better at the short speed stuff. But it looks like we have a breakaway here.
Yeah, you can see the pit of the team that's off the front. That was Phi Delta Theta.
So far we did 34 minutes for the first 50 laps. And that's relatively slow from you know, compared to previous years.
So what we've got going on, you can see the front of the field right there, the peloton, but we've got a team off the front. We've got Phi Delta Theta turning it up. They've got about a half a stretch lead. There's the field kind of thinking about it. That's Zach Lusk on the bike for Cutters. And in pink, that's Team Major Taylor. They're going to need to react to this. There's Phi Delta.
Yeah, and Phi Delta did a fakie, Jason. It was a fakie.
He's going to tell them to keep going. They've really got they've got a huge advantage right now, but with a really strong headwind, it's just hard to be out there on the front by yourself.
It is really hard, but you know, I'm surprised to see Cutters still on the front pulling. You know, the other teams are going to sit back and say, okay, well, you know what, Cutters, you've taken responsibility for the race, so we're just going to let you have it for now.
For now.
Here's this Phi Delta exchange. Let's see this, right? They've got about a straightaway lead right now.
Great exchange. I mean, bike to bike, flawless.
You can see why those running shoes come into play. You got to get off to a little jog. You want to keep your momentum, right? You just never slow down.
Absolutely. You know, and Phi Delta, you know, they're at the end of the pit, so as soon as they make their exchange, they go into turn 1 and 2 and immediately into that headwind section, so he's really got to sprint into that.
Baxter Burnworth, the rider now for Phi Delta.
If you're going to ride off the front, you got to ride off the front. He was looking over his shoulder right there, and it looked like he took a little bit of a longer line into the corner. Keep it going, Baxter. You're looking great. You know, so what he needs to do is he needs to use his 4-person team right now. You know, do 2, 3, 4 lap sets. You never know what's going to happen. There's Fiji's. Fiji probably does not like the fact that there's a team up the road right now.
Well, that's good. Now, so some of the other teams are starting to take some responsibility. And we have Phi Delta, Phi Gamma Delta, the Cutters. Black Key Bulls, Gray Goat Cycling. These are all the teams that we talked about, you know, having a shot at winning this race, and they're all at the front right now, all taking responsibility, all taking pulls. Hey, and you know what? Oh, and there was a crash at the back of the field. Sometimes riders just overlap. But, you know, it's great to see some of these guys react so quickly, immediately get back onto the bike. They know how important it is to get back on there. And he needs to close as much ground as possible before they pull the yellow. Yep, and there goes the yellow.
See, that's it. That
caution flags are out. And another look.
You can't see what happened too much, but what you do see is you see a little wrestling back there with the bikes, and certainly we hope that, I think it's a Phi Kappa Alpha rider, certainly we hope he's okay.
You know, you just overlapped wheels, you get off balance, and it just takes everybody down. It's a huge pile up.
Like Wright Cycling was the first bike to go down.
Again, you know, the rider grasping his shoulder, it's just such a telltale sign.
Foundation thanks our conference sponsor, B97, Bosch, Coca-Cola, Ranger, East X, Specialized Bicycles, Campus Corner Apartments.
Yellow flags out. Riders need to maintain position.
So 57 laps into our 200-lap race. We still have a number of teams on the lead lap. I think we have more than 10 right now. Delta Upsilon is really up, riding well, and is a surprise to me. Team number 6, Black Key Bulls, Cutters, Fiji, Phi Delta Theta, Team Major Taylor, Gray Goat Cycling.
While we have a moment, let's go downstairs. Hans is with the leaders.
I'm down here in the Phi Delta pit. They found themselves with a considerable lead over the pack right now, about half a straightaway. I'm down here with their coach, Brian. Brian, was this a planned strategy to get away from the pack, or did this just happen?
Oh, it just happened. We're just having fun. It just kind of came in our hands. We're just seeing what happens.
All right, well, good luck out there. You guys seem to be pushing the tempo. I saw you flashing the tempo sign out there. You trying to get him to increase the gap?
No, well, we were just seeing what would happen. Like I said, it didn't look like it was going anywhere, so we're just letting it come back together.
All right, we'll see how it plays out here on the track.
Thank you, Hans. Phi Delta Theta won in 1982, 96, and 2001.
Then you heard a little bit, was it a planned attack? He said, no, you know, we just kind of got off the road a little bit and we're going with it. So you've always got to be reactive and kind of work on the fly.
Well, you know, and sometimes things just happen and you find yourself off the front. It's kind of funny that way. But, you know, what he doesn't want to do right now is waste this opportunity. And while he may not win the race, he's causing all of the other teams behind him to chase, right?
Yeah.
So that's what tempo means. It's like, okay, look, let's just set a hard, solid tempo and make the other teams come to you. You know, make those guys bring the race to you. And you never know, there could be a crash, or, you know, one or two guys could come up and then all of a sudden you have a breakaway.
There's Delta Delta coming in for a change. Yeah, you saw it pick up right there. The one thing that it does do is it causes a little bit of confusion in the pack. You have teams shuffling around. You get accelerations. You see wrecks.
And you just saw that the Cutters rider make an exchange and crash right into the back of the Major Taylor rider. Another rider down. You know, I think some of the cinders are really getting loose out there.
Phi Kappa Alpha.
Here's this exchange. Both Cutters and Major Taylor coming in to do an exchange side by side.
Oh my goodness, that's just too tight.
Yes.
So what you try to do there, they should have set up more apart. They should have waited another lap to do that exchange. That's just too much going on.
More of a gap there, but you know, you saw Eric Young actually just do a great job of holding onto the bike and not making a face plant there.
See, no hesitation, right?
None,
he just grabbed the bike. He said, "Give it to me, and I'm off."
That's right.
So Phi Delta's doing a real good job, right?
Yeah.
Riding off the front, staying out of trouble.
So now they're back on. They did an exchange. You know, they put their rider right back in there at the front. Here it goes. Boy, it looks like that Sigma Chi rider is having a bike rodeo right now out there.
And he's taking a long line around the corner.
I mean, he's wrestling that bike. I hope he doesn't break it.
I'm going to come to his defense and say that with only two bikes, maybe it doesn't fit him perfectly, right? Maybe it's a little bit low on him.
Absolutely, you know, and that's one of the challenges here when you're putting together a team and you only have two bikes.
Seat height, right? But Sigma Chi riding really well.
That's right. You know, funny story. I was one of the only riders on the team, on the U.S. Postal team, that rode a 54-centimeter bike. And Tyler Hamilton was also a teammate of mine at the time and also rode a 54. So if he ever had a bike problem, I was the guy that had to give up my bike and give him, you know, let him ride mine. It's funny the way that works out.
Lap 62 of 200.
Here we go. So communication again, right? There's two teams. Well, one team coming in for an exchange. Black Key Bulls, one of our favorites, looking good.
Has a little peek under his shoulder to see where the field is.
Renjay Shi now on the bike for Black Key Bulls.
Right in there at the front. You know, right where he wants to be. Doesn't have to spend any energy to get in the front.
You know, this is Renjay's first little 5, but he's been racing for a number of years in USCF. I was fortunate enough to race with him. I know he's really excited. And I know that he knows that this is the biggest race he's ever ridden in today. He started riding in high school, you know, as a junior when he was about 15 or 16.
Absolutely. Dylan, I thought you made an interesting point. You're talking about that in cycling, oftentimes you get to ride in similar type races building up to a big event, something like this, a pinnacle event. Whereas in this one, you don't get that type of experience. You come, this is a one-shot deal, and you don't get any warm-up races, so
That's right. There's no warm-up Little 500, or there's no practice Little 500. There is the Little 500. So these guys spend all year preparing for one day. And there's a real art form to that. You know, you have to really pay attention to the small details, and that's why some of these riders, they go to training camps. They, you know, they schedule trips where they all go away together as a team. You know, the night before the race, they'll go get a hotel so that they can kind of get away from all of the action that's going on in their fraternity or their sorority house.
And what they do, there's collegiate cycling races. And so at Indiana University, the cycling team is a club sport. And so what you'll see is a lot of these guys participate in the Midwest Collegiate Conference during the spring, and they do a number of road races and criteriums that lead up to this.
And much like all of the life skills you learned being involved in this, Jason, there is no substitute for experience.
There's none at all. You know, you can sit there and you can learn from the older guys, but until you do it, you just really don't quite know what it feels like. So that is one of the reasons they do track practice every day. They have a couple practice starts and 50-lap races just so they can see what it's like and keep the race safe. And I had a watch on this last lap, and they were doing around 40, 42-second laps. So the lap times are down this year. It really has to do with the heavy winds, I think.
Yeah, so
we've got a 20-mile-per-hour wind on the backstretch.
Right, and to give the folks at home an idea, so 28 seconds is what the track record, right?
It's 31.
31 for an individual. But what was one of the fastest laps? I think 28 is what I heard from Hans. But anyway, so roughly a low 30s is a fast lap time, and these guys are doing 40, so it just shows you how much slower it is with this headwind.
So teams with good sprinters, they really like that because they have an opportunity to maybe get to the end and look for that sprint finish.
Oh, sure. If you're a sprinter, you don't mind if it's slow because the only lap that matters is the last lap.
Phi Delta going to come in for an exchange.
It's Matt Kane bringing it in for Phi Delta.
Hand it off to Stephen Sharp.
Staying safe, and that's Eric Young on the bike for the Cutters. Eric's just had a great spring. He won individual time trials, finished second in missing out. He's just demonstrated his ability all spring here.
An injury update. We'll go down to Hans.
Okay, Cameron. I'm down here with the rider that took an unfortunate spill earlier in the wreck, but it's good to see him up and walking around. He's okay. We think it's just a collarbone. When he crashed, he thought he might have broken his neck, but now he's up and walking. He's okay.
Yeah, just when you go into the gutter and it's concrete, you never exactly know because that's the worst place to go down, except for these poles here. So yeah, it hurt like hell. But I don't know. We'll see what the X-ray says. All we're waiting on.
Well, it's good to see that you're okay.
Justin Boren done for the day, and I like how Hans phrases that. You know, it's just a collarbone. Oh, yeah, just a collarbone. If it's your collarbone, it's not just a collarbone. Justin didn't mince any words about what it hurt like either, did he?
Well, you know, as bad as it sounds, breaking a collarbone, it's not as bad as it could be. You know, if you break your shoulder or your scapula or you break an arm or a hip, you know, those are injuries that really put you out of it. But, you know, we all know that Lance Armstrong just recently had an accident in Spain and broke his collarbone for the first time in his career, actually, which was interesting. But He flew home, met with his team of doctors, and they put a steel plate in his collarbone, bolted it all back together, and he's actually back on the bike training full speed right now. It was pretty amazing recovery.
What was the worst injury you've ever had off a bike, Dylan?
Well, you know, Rich, it's funny that you mentioned that. My worst accident that I ever had in my career was I crashed into a TV cameraman at the finish line. So
did you win?
No, unfortunately, I didn't. Unfortunately, yeah, it's just, you know, there's an unfortunate accident at the finish line oftentimes in races that gets real crowded. And just cost of doing business, that's the way we refer to it. But, you know, everybody, I'm fine now. Everybody's back on the bike, so to speak, and live to fight another day.
How many collarbones you break, Jason?
I haven't broken well, actually, mountain bike ride, I broke a collarbone. I was riding with a guy that was a little bit too fast for me, trying to keep up with him. I went down. But, you know, they always say it's not a matter of if you'll wreck, it's when you'll wreck. And, and then kind of the other misconception is cycling that I think that we shave our legs so that we can go faster. I think what it really is it's preparation for when you're going to be scrubbing those cinders out of your legs later in the evening.
You know, it's funny. I've seen some little 5 riders from the past actually show me the cinders that are still in their arms or their legs, almost as if it were a badge of honor. But the reality is that, you know, it's really hard to get out. You know, there's a tent on the infield. We just saw it there on the screen. And I think that's where the riders go to have the cinders scrubbed out.
Is there an underground room so that you won't hear the screams when the wire brush comes out?
That's right. I think that's when they turn the music up really loud. You know,
I couldn't imagine this race any other way. They've been riding on cinders since 1951. I just think it's one of the things that makes it really unique. I understand cinders were a part of the old tracks, you know, it's always been a part of this race. Other colleges in Indiana try to simulate this. Interestingly enough, DePaul has a race in Ball State, but needless to say, I don't think HDNet's there today, and neither are we.
Well, you know, I think it's interesting, too, because, you know, Hans was talking about the difference between the road bikes that the professionals use in the races around the world and the bikes that are used for the little 500. And these bikes actually have special wheels and tires that are designed to, you know, give enough traction on the cinders. And you can actually see when they're going really fast, the rear wheels will kind of fishtail a little bit.
And so actually the weather plays a huge role in this race today because the track slows down when it's warm. What they want to do is they water down the track a whole lot. And what that does is it keeps the cinders compact and it makes it faster, almost like asphalt. So with this really warm temperatures, it's drying it out. There's loose cinders, slows it down quite a bit, and ruts form on the track.
We've talked so much about.
Oh, and the cutter rider, we just had a crash.
And a pile up.
Huge crash. That's Phi Delta Theta, Sigma Chi. Cutters are down. Number 11, Phi Psi's down.
And they're not going yellow, so that means that means that Cutters really needs to lay it down right now to catch back on. And at the front of the field, the other riders have reacted, and they're instantly throwing down the hammer because this is their opportunity to put the Cutters out of the race.
Grey Goat Cycling, Delta Tau.
This is just an enormous development.
Black Key Bulls as well.
So the teams that did not wreck, yeah, Black Key Bulls, Delta Tau Delta, Grey Goat Cycling, Phi Gamma Delta. And they've got about they've got a full straightaway lead on the Cutters right now. This is their opportunity to make the race, and it looks like they know it. Look at him just laying it down. He's not looking back. He's trying to get arrow. Let's see what happens here.
You know, it looked like he looked over his shoulder just a little bit and had a little bobble, but it was definitely the Cutters rider who went down first, at least. So I don't know if we're seeing a yellow flag or no. We're still under green, but you know the Cutters guys have completely sat up.
And the reason we didn't see yellow is just because everybody got up and reacted to it so quickly. So we're still under green and we're racing.
And a different look at the head of the race.
Oh, Fijis are just driving it, and now you can tell Black Key Bull, something's going on with them. He wouldn't be signaling the pit like that if he was okay.
Cutters doing an exchange.
An exchange is a large part of this race. Michael Schroeder,
and it looks like
hit the track.
And it looks like Clayton Feldman for Cutters is back in, and he's got a big job ahead of him right now.
He's got a huge job. They've got about a half a lap lead on the Cutters right now.
So you see Delta Upsilon, Major Taylor, you know, a lot of the teams actually, it's funny, we haven't really talked about a lot so far in the race. are really taking this opportunity. But, you know, you see these exchanges and how important they are, and that's a really good exchange right there. Put his teammate right back in there. That's a bike-to-bike exchange.
What you guys are seeing these
Phi Kappa with the good exchange, and Black Key Bulls continuing to ride and exchange well also.
Yeah, and here's this exchange we saw earlier where the Major Taylor and Cutters just got tangled up and overlapped. You know, unfortunately, it didn't really affect him that much, but, you know, here we are back at the race.
So the team sped up. What you saw happen was Phi Delta Theta, the team in green, just got lapped. They're one lap down. That's Dodds Cycling and Phi Gamma Delta on the front. And really, with some of the favorites going down right now, they've got to try to make this race. Race is up the road. You can see the Dodds rider telling the Fiji rider to pull through. Want to keep the pace hot.
That's right. I mean, these guys are saying, look, this is our opportunity to make this race. And you see Cutters, that, you know, he's got a couple of other riders with him, so he's going to want to take advantage of that and say, hey, fellas, come on. If we all work together, we can get back into this race.
Which is a really, really good sign that for the Cutters that they have riders with them.
You know, good exchange by Phi Delta Theta there, but, you know, he's really almost all by himself. He's got to catch back up to Major Taylor and the other riders in the lead group right now.
Yeah, and the green team's a lap down. So our pole team, Phi Delta Theta, is a lap down. See him kind of negotiating some lap traffic right there. He's not gonna end his day. Phi Gamma Delta, that's David Ellis on the bike for him. He's had a great spring, finishing third in missing outs, third in ITTs.
So here we are. You know, basically the Cutters, we've been talking about them all day long. They've made the race so far. We're 80 laps into the race, almost to the halfway point. And right now, they have just got to dig in and focus and say, okay, we've got a big job ahead of us. And he needs to look around and get some help from some of the other riders and talk those guys into, you know, almost like Jedi mind trick some of the other guys to help him get back to the lead group. And he can really, you know, take advantage of some of this lap traffic in front of him. And as he passes them, saying, hey, come on, fellas, jump on the train. Let's get back in the race.
He looks strong right now too, Dylan. I know Clayton pretty well, and I think he likes this challenge. He lives for it. Last night he told me he won 4, you know, Category 3 races over the summer, and he did a lot of those off the front. Well, so you look at a big, strong guy like that, and you know he has the horsepower to maybe pull it back.
Absolutely. Clayton's the right guy to do it. You can see he's focused. His shoulders are flat. He's not wobbling a lot. You know, he's not wrestling the bike like we've seen some of the other riders do. He's got a nice, smooth pedal stroke. I think he can do it.
And what he's done is he's really pulled it back. Now it's down to a straightaway. It was a half lap. Fiji's and Black Key Bulls looking around, but Clayton looks like he's in a time trial right now. He's in an individual time trial to catch that pack.
You know, he just needs to maintain this speed. He just needs to maintain one speed and hope that the front group will kind of yo-yo up and down and actually overall end up going slower than he's going. But, you know, he's really got to take advantage of some of this lap traffic in front of him. Some of the riders doing exchanges in front of him as they come in and out, try to benefit by jumping on and off their wheels.
Clayton's trying to close on our leaders right now. Team Major Taylor, Black Key Bulls, Phi Gamma Delta, those are the teams he's trying to close on. That's Kenny Parks on the bike for Team Major Taylor.
The Cutters are going to do an exchange. Cutters with their 9 championships, the most prolific team in the history of the Little 500.
They can do this, you know. They just got to stay focused. They can get back in the race. They got to use the whole team. You know, one guy can't do it all by himself.
Eric Young on the bike now for the Cutters.
They've got him in sight. Eric's really closing it quick. He's got a little bit different strategy, right? You saw Clayton kind of logging out a nice tempo ride. Eric's going to close this as quickly as he can. He's really moving coming into turn 4.
Absolutely. Well, when you're fresh like that, you basically want to just sprint back up to the group, and he's done it. He's made contact with the back of the group. You know, great job by the Cutters to really not let that mishap put him out of the race.
And what I'm shocked by is really kind of how quickly they caught back up, right? We had Kenny Parks on for TMT, we had David Ellis on for Phi Gamma Delta, and Valentin Totaro on for Black Key Bulls, and they weren't really driving it hard enough to keep the Cutters off the back. Maybe it's kind of a late, right now is a late push as you see Dodds Cycling pulling through.
Well, you know, the thing is Dodds Cycling and some of these other teams that have been pulling may not know that the cutters are back on.
Sure.
And so it would be to the cutters' benefit to just kind of sit back a little bit right now, you know, recover, let some of the other teams work, you know, do some of the work.
That's exactly what Eric's doing. Eric's recovering. Fijis are still on the front. There's David Ellis. You look for a Fiji exchange here. It's going to be a bike exchange. He's got a good burn. He's being marked, but he's got a great burn going.
Good look at David Ellis.
Races
Comes
up.
into exchange to A.D. King.
Good exchange, you know, here we are.
Yeah,
cutters back on the front again.
That was quick.
Good gap for Fijis.
85 laps, and look at the time.
Yeah, 57 minutes into the first 86 laps of the race. Definitely not one of the fastest races, but a lot of action, you know, again, with the crashes and the exchanges. Really taking a toll on the riders.
200 laps, all total around the quarter-mile cinder track.
So it's teammate entertainment. So correction, it's down to Omega, correction. Watching out for Omega. It's down for Omega. Then Phi Gamma Delta. Team number 10, Acacia.
So, you know, I talked about how the race has a rhythm. You know, there's the start, and then there's this kind of a little bit of a lull, and then a crash will happen, or, you know, the cutters, like we saw that crash happen, and it kind of makes the race. And here we are at this next section. It's a little bit of a lull. We're almost at the halfway point. Had a bunch of action, some crashes. Some teams are absolutely out of the race now, and where other teams are still there. You know, cutters back in, quietly sitting in the middle of the bunch, which is the right thing to do right now. These guys are going to slow down, relax a little bit, but we're going to see some more action come up as we enter the next phase, the next section of the race.
Yeah, we're going to take a timeout and be back with more of the Little 500 in Bloomington.
Welcome back to the Little 500 on HDNet.
A 6-decade tradition, the Little 500, first race in 1951. 89 of 200 completed, and the cutters who were involved in a wreck back leading the pace.
Yeah, we expected that out of him, Rich, right? They didn't let it dangle for too long. What Clayton did was he maintained the gap and he kind of closed the gap a little bit, and then Eric just had a really quick burn to catch right back up to the field.
And drop back just a touch. Gray Goat Cycling now ahead of the pack. Phi Delta, and you know, you flash back to the race we covered yesterday, the women's race, and we're talking about a handful of teams throughout the afternoon, and you know, coming out of the pack. Phi Beta.
Yeah, we had a real surprise yesterday,
Grabs
Rich.
the checkered flag, their first ever.
Yeah, we had a huge surprise yesterday, and I'm looking at the field this year, and I'm seeing kind of a slower pace. I'm seeing a lot of teams on the lead lap, and we may have something like that happen again. You know, Delta Tau Delta could be a sleeper. I think Alpha Tau Omega is riding well. Team number 23, Delta Upsilon, is a surprise. They're up there. They're wearing yellow and blue.
Well, this is a different type of race this year from the ones that Hans Aronson was involved in, who was out and about lapping the field. And while we have a moment, let's check in with our Little 500 Hall of Famer.
Talking with the Phi Delta Theta mechanic, they're telling me about the wreck that happened a while ago. Their bike got all mangled up. It wasn't a good bike to ride, so it was also tangled up with another team when they were on the track. They couldn't get the bikes unhitched. Once they did, they had to bring a new bike out there, and the biggest factor was that there was no yellow flag on that lap. So the riders had to chase and didn't get any chance to rest on there. So right now, we found them that they're a lap down. Best of luck. These guys are going to do whatever they can to get back in this race.
Thank you, Hans. A good shot of that, you know, without that caution flag in there, really chance for other teams to separate.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting right now. We see the whole, almost all of the teams back together into one field. And what's really difficult and confusing about the race right now is that we have riders on different laps all together.
Everybody back in the pack with the exception of 3 bikes.
Yeah, that's right. You know, we have these 3 riders that are kind of by themselves right now. That would almost be the best thing to do is just wait for the main field and then sit in.
And you don't see this every year, but I really think because of that, because of the high winds and a balanced field, what they're doing is they're just staying together because it's easier to be a pack.
Yeah.
Cutters, Fiji, Phi Delta.
And Delta Upsilon, I really need to give them credit. That's David Richardson Rosbach, who's on the bike for them. He won missing out this spring, so he's really carrying his team, and Delta Upsilon's looking great today.
You know, again, we see Cutters on the front just laying it down and turning the screws.
Michael Schroeder.
Taking a look over his shoulder, kind of seeing what kind of damage he's doing, and he's actually got a gap. Likely coming in to do an exchange, but you know what's interesting, Jason? Sometimes it almost looks like the Cutters are doing way more work than they need to do for an exchange, right? I mean, he's going to come in, he's going to put his teammate back in almost off the front again.
Well, and this is Zach Luck's first race, and he's getting on the bike, and I think this is his second set. What Eric's doing, Eric's got a little bit more experience than Zach, and what he's doing is he's taking care of him. He's going to give him a little bit of lead, not let him do too much work, not put him in any bind.
Sure.
Right? Just kind of give him every advantage he can, and so he's really taking care of Zach in his first race.
Yeah, and Zach's being smart right now. He's just, you know, saying, okay, I don't need to kill myself right now. I'll pedal a little bit, let these other guys come up to me.
Come on, let's see if Zach's smart enough to hop on Grey Goat.
Yeah.
Yep, there he goes.
There you go.
You know, why not? Why not?
Yeah.
Okay. He's going to let him go by. Really trying to conserve energy, stay out of the wind.
No, and he's being smart because Grey Goat was coming in to do an exchange.
Matthew Keel now on the bike for Grey Goat.
There goes Black Key Bulls.
Black Key Bulls with, yeah, go ahead, Rich. That's really a good burn that Zach has going. He's punching it. Yeah, so these bikes, it's just tough to find a good fit for you. But what you do see Zach doing is he's way up in the saddle. He's turning over the pedals at a quick rate.
Yeah, Black Key Bulls getting ready to do an exchange here. Again, really setting up his teammate for an easy way back into the race.
Jordan Bailey on the bike for Black Key Bulls.
You know, so Jordan basically just gets to soft pedal here. Gets back on the bike, kind of get it back up to speed. Wait for the field to come around and slot right back in there in the top 5 is the ideal place to be.
This race reminds me a lot of 1999. We had a warm day like this. We had a lot of teams on the lead lap, and we had a surprise winner in Sigma Phi Epsilon that year. So it reminds me a lot of a packed finish in 1999.
You know, my guess is that Cutters, obviously, they have a really strong team, and they don't necessarily want to let it come down to a big, giant field sprint. Even though we only have 9 teams on the lead lap, you know, they're all going to have to deal with all of this traffic and all the other teams, and they might not necessarily want to wait for that. They want to, you know, use their team and the fact that it's so strong to their full advantage and really, you know, go hard and make a bunch of attacks. But it's going to be really interesting. You know, we have 9 teams on the lead lap right now.
Approaching the halfway point.
Oh, we've got a wreck on the backstretch.
Coming out of the exchange, another pile up.
It's another thing that happens with big packs, right?
That's
you know,
right.
there's that chance that you're going to overlap wheels, you're going to rub. You know, you combine that with the heat, and a lot of things are going to happen. Let's see what happens. So we had some exchanges on the outside. And we have a huge pack, right? They're 4 wide, and what happened was they were just so wide they got caught up in that exchange right there.
That's right. Well, you know, the rider who's doing the exchange was kind of looking around, not really paying attention that he was riding right back into the, right back into the field.
And you just can't focus enough on being in the groove. You know, being like a foot or 2 feet outside of the gutter. You know, he was 4 or 5 people or 4 or 5 riders outside, and then that's when things happen. You're riding a longer distance, and you're also outside of that groove.
Yeah, Major Taylor again doing a great exchange, putting the rider right back in the front. You know, if you notice, these Major Taylor riders, they look pretty big, like stocky, almost like, you know, real sprinters. I bet they would really be interested in a field sprint.
I think that'd go well for them. They've got Kenny Parks, who's quite a sprinter.
The numbers after the first 100 laps.
So, and I think our record is 2 hours and 1 minute. I think it's, you know, we may get that up on the screen. I think it's 1984. So they were at 107. They're riding quite a bit slower than record pace or even a fast pace for a race.
Ask and you shall receive. I guess who? The Cutters.
Cutters with their second championship there in 1986. They've won 40% of all the races. So.
And a famous name, the Cutters.
If you're a betting man, they're a good pick today.
Obviously, we know where the name Cutters comes from, and some of the other teams have their fraternity as their name. But Jason, tell us about some of the names that these teams come up with and the significance. You know, whether it's Gray Goats or you have, you know, some of these teams like you've never even heard of the name before. What's the naming process for one of these teams?
That's a great question. I guess it has to, you know, pass approval by the foundation first.
That's right.
Right. So it needs to be something that we can talk about. But one of my favorites this year, I think, is Vicious and Delicious. I mentioned that earlier.
Right.
The delivery men for Jimmy John sandwiches.
That's great.
I mean, that is perfect.
You got it. We've got Collins Buddy Gamma in the field today. Collins is a local dorm on campus, right? So you've got a combination of dorms, fraternities, and also independent teams. And independents are really when it gets creative.
In Indiana, very large Greek system.
Yeah, it's funny. Absolutely. Jason and I had an opportunity to get a little bike ride in this morning. We did a lap. I don't know what you called it. It was like a campus lap or something like that.
Dylan, that was a face lap. We weren't going too fast. We were just looking to check out town.
That's right. That's right. And you could tell this was sometime around 11:30, and all of the fraternities and sororities were already at, you know, 11 on the volume scale, meaning past 10.
I had to rope Dylan in. He almost stopped to party. It was, you know, kegs and eggs out there. I can't keep him moving.
It is a festive weekend.
Yeah, it's great. You know, coming through town, even when I got here the other night, you could just feel the buzz. I think I arrived somewhere around at 1:30 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and the whole town was going full tilt. But, you know, that's the great thing about the Little Five weekend. All the students, the alumni, the town, the community, everybody comes together for this great event. It's just something to really check out.
So, and you were talking about Cutters just a minute ago, Rich. One of the things they do on the there's a dorm television network, and they play Breaking Away all spring. Like it's on, you know, I don't know, every other day or something like that. So you're sitting there, you're just kind of getting ready for the race and excited about it. And then you bring in a lot of your friends from out of town. And this is a weekend that everybody wants to be here.
And we'll take a little look at what the Cutters have done.
Well, this is a little chaos here. Their coaches aren't happy about doing an exchange with 3 teams wide right there, but they worked through that. Eric grabbed the bike and got going quickly. I think that was Schrader on the bike for them when they wrecked.
Oh,
indeed it was.
You know, we just see how one rider can actually take down 5 or 10 riders. It's a huge domino effect, which is why it's not good to be at the back.
But hitting the cinders didn't keep them off the pace for long. Zachary Lusk came on and put together a strong ride. Look at that, 9 wins, most in the history of this event.
And the neat thing about that graphic, you know, Phi Gamma Delta and Phi Kappa Psi with great programs, but Cutters and Delta Chi are really somewhat of the same team. Former Delta Chi riders, the bike team left the house and formed the Cutters, and they've just, Adam Giles was a part of that, as well as Chris Gutowski and the Risingers, and they've just kept that tradition going, and you can see 17 wins between those 2 teams. There's Black Key Bulls on the bike. I think that's Jordan Bailey. He's getting a little FaceTime himself on the front. I anticipate Black Key Bulls is going to make a move later in the race. I'm kind of waiting for that to happen. I think what they've done is they got through the first 100 laps. You'll see maybe between 150 and 200 teams are going to try to make moves. Teams that don't want this to be a sprint.
Lap 108.
Well, you know what Black Key Bulls is probably thinking about right now is they're going to be looking for who else also wants to make the race and not let it come down to a field sprint. I think it's safe to say that Cutters wouldn't mind not waiting for the last lap. And, you know, if you see 1 or 2 of these teams get together, they can really work together and take advantage of the fact that they, you know, none of them want to have a field sprint.
Let's check in with Hans.
Yep. I'm down here in the pits with Alpha Tau Omega and Steve Zimba. Took a crash on the corner here. Steve, what happened?
I mean, I was coming out to exchange the first lap. It slowed down, I guess, and everyone started going wide. I couldn't get on the outside and just collided. 3 or 4 people went down back there.
Was the wind a big factor for that crash?
I mean, I think so. I mean, it's coming straight at that corner, so yeah.
Well, they were about a turn down after the race, but Robert Perez was able to get in there, get the team back up there, and now they're riding in the lead once again.
Thank you, Hans.
You know, again, it just goes to show you that a crash doesn't necessarily always put you out of the race, but it's important to recover as quickly as possible. Get back to the front where it's safe. You know, we see Cutters, we see ATO, we see Major Taylor, all the same teams sitting right at the front doing a majority of the work.
And we look at the lap standings.
Beautiful day here at Indiana University. Temperature in the 80s.
In second place, team number 6, Blackie Bulls. In third, team number 4.
Springtime in Bloomington.
It's Delta Tau Delta and Grey Goat coming in for an exchange. Looks like what the teams are doing in the pit right now is communicating. You folks at home couldn't see that, but these two teams, you see them come out on the track a little bit. They need to separate themselves, stay out of each other's way. That's one of the big things.
That was a great exchange, just in the sense that, you know, all 4 of those guys were almost tangled up, but they were paying attention, communicating, and didn't crash.
Crowd of better than 20,000 in Armstrong Stadium.
Yeah, you know, it's great to see this crowd, this stadium so packed. I think last year the weather was bad, but you know, these guys did the exchange, no crashes.
And look at the sportsmanship on the back end. That's
Thanks,
what
buddy.
you love to see.
Beers on me later.
Yeah. Keep it safe, don't get in my way, right?
That's right.
Actually,
That's
what these guys will also do, you talk about beers later. I need to be careful where I go with that, but they'll wear their cycling jerseys out.
Oh, yeah.
For the next couple weeks, right? And you're kind of like a local celebrity. If you're wearing your cycling jersey out, you'll be at the bars, people know you, and it's a great race. So, you know, it's just a big part of springtime here at Indiana.
Absolutely. I don't think they'll have to spend any time waiting in the line at Nick's.
Yeah, the other part, coming down the home stretch with the entire school year. You know, just a couple weeks left, so you talk about the festive atmosphere, and the sun's back out, and everybody's excited, and just excitement that goes with that. The timing of this race, you know, they certainly knew what they were doing, putting it in play, and it's a unique event and a wonderful event, and you know, you can't mention it enough, all of the scholarship money that has been raised to help out the working students here at IU.
You know, it's true. A lot of these guys are seniors. This is their last Little 5, their last chance to win it, and I can't think of a better graduation gift than a Little 500 winner's ring.
Your name of your team gets to go on the trophy, but then you also get the mementos as well to take with you.
You know, Clayton Feldman just following that burnout, but not, you know, doesn't want to waste too much energy. He's just staying at the front, being really smart. Starting to see Major Taylor at the front a little bit more than we were earlier in the race.
Grey Goat Cycling. Grey Goat Cycling.
Team number 16. Their colors are right in the midst of that large pack you see going in to the third turn now, being led by Team Major Taylor.
Still a large pack of riders, but many on different laps.
That's right. We're down to 9 teams on the lead lap. You know, we're a little over the halfway point of the race. Again, a little bit of a lull here. Everybody kind of looking around, seeing what's happening, staying out of trouble. Cutters is basically just staying at the front, following the other teams as they make their exchanges.
You know, Clayton looks like he's having a lot of fun with it right now. You see somebody coming by on the outside, he jumps up, he's got some spring in his legs.
Yeah.
You know, Fiji's is looking real good too. That's they're in white. That's Ted Boglin on the bike for them. You know, Fiji's had all 4 riders in the top 25 in individual time trials. So you talk about a balanced team. They're a balanced team that may also go on and attack the last 50 laps. When you have that strength, you don't necessarily want it to come down to sprint. Maybe you want to separate yourselves a little bit.
Then you have Blackie Bulls, team number 6, team number 4, Team Major Taylor.
Certainly a number of different ways to approach winning the little 500.
Well, you know, it's almost like a chess match because you have to have a strategy, obviously, and a plan, but you have to be nimble and be able to adjust. You know, it's almost like calling audibles in a football game, where you might go into it with a specific plan, but you got to constantly change it.
So you're going to see Black Key Bulls come in for an exchange here, and Cutters is marking them right now.
Black Key Bulls with the exchange. Phi Delta does the exchange as well, as does Wright Cycling.
That just reminds me, there's just so much going on. You know, he picks up the bike and he's got to look for somebody else and get it up to speed. There's so much going on, and just the concentration and the focus. You really got to think on your feet. Clayton just logging some laps right now.
You know, the little 500 is 50 miles, which is typically a little bit longer than most of the amateur road races that they would do, or criteriums, if you will, which is a similar race to this. So it's not the longest distance, but you know, with the gear that they have, and the fact that they have to make all these exchanges with the sprints and close all of these gaps actually makes it a lot harder than it would appear.
Absolutely, it's such a long day for the guys, actually, because you know they say the race is going to start at 2, but it really doesn't start till 3 because we do all of the festivities and everyone needs to file in. So by the end of the day, you know, it's not going to wrap up till 4:30 or 5. They went for a morning ride and then they come out here and race. It's a pretty exhausting day.
Yeah, that's right. That's why it's important that they kind of look after all those little details. Make sure that they eat a good breakfast. Make sure that they stay hydrated all day long. Try to stay off their feet as much as possible.
And just having an experienced coaching staff and fans behind you is so important, because what those guys are doing are keeping water for you on the sidelines, you know, maybe keeping a cold towel over your neck, you know, trying to keep you cool, keeping you focused. It just, the experienced teams have done this race for a number of years. They have such an advantage over new teams because they have those coaches and they have that support.
Oh, absolutely. You know, you have the mechanics staff. You have, you know, people that are helping out with bringing up all of the equipment and the bikes and the trainers and making it as easy as possible on the riders. So essentially all they need to do is show up and win. It's easy as that. You just show up and win, right, Jason?
You make it sound simple.
I think when you win, it is simple. It's always harder to lose.
Even though this is a long and exhausting day for the riders, I don't imagine it's so exhausting to send them to bed early tonight.
Yeah, somehow I just don't think that they're going to be going to bed early tonight. You know, this kind of event crescendos with not just the race, but then all of the after-race festivities, which is really a part of the whole community coming together.
120 laps of the 2009 Little 500 in the books. Let's take a look back to the 2008 edition of the Little 500. Little different weather conditions a year ago. Cold, rainy, and the wind was still whipping. You see the riders all bundled up. And the Cutters, back-to-back champions, looking for a three-peat in 2009.
Yeah, has anybody ever won it 3 times in a row, Jason?
Yeah, you know, I'm going to need to make sure I get my statistics right, but Delta Chi won in 1979, 1980, and 1981. I believe we'll have a little feature on one of those riders here in a minute.
And another, looks like we had another crash on the backside.
You can see what happens when it gets pushed so wide. You know, it's just it's a wide pack, and there's so many things that can happen.
Yellow flag now.
Well, and that's the issue with the headwind being so strong on the back stretches. It really causes the main group to fan out. We call it going gutter to gutter. And you know, and the other thing to remember is that these riders don't have handbrakes, which make it really difficult to kind of modulate your speed. You have to, you know, you have to pedal backwards in order to slow down. And sometimes when a rider in front of you makes a quick change or moves abruptly to the left or the right, you don't always have enough time to react, and then instantly you're down on the cinders.
Kappa Sigma rider still down. Yellow flag is out. And let's go downstairs to Hans, who's with the Cutters.
I'm down here in the Cutters pit with their coach, Jason Fowler. Jason, your team's riding on the front right now. They've been riding great all day. You seem to show up on race day as a contender year in and year out. The past couple of decades, your team has been a powerhouse in this race. What does it take to show up and be a contender each and every year?
A number of things. I think it's a lot of the alumni support year after year, you know, guiding the riders through the season, both in training, but also through the little things. You know, getting ready for the race. The guys don't have to worry about anything. It's really the details that maybe others ignore a little bit, and we like to focus in on those details.
Okay. This year, you could be going for a historic 3rd win in a row and the 10th win. You've already set the record for 9 wins as a team. What are you going to do this year? What's your strategy for the next 75 laps?
Yeah, there's a lot of teams on the lead lap right now, which we kind of like because we have Eric Young and a sprinter. So we have that, but we also have 3 other guys on the team that can time trial it out at the end. So really, we're ready for whatever comes our way, but we like the way it is now.
All right, we'll look for a sprint or a time trial. We'll see how it plays out.
Thank you, Hans. What do you take of those comments, gentlemen?
I think they're really comfortable with Eric finishing the race. They don't feel a lot of pressure to string it out. I think the other teams need to know that. Black Key Bulls and Fiji, Phi Psi, and they need to try to get rid of the cutters.
Green flag being waved now.
You know, and one of the things when you showed that graphic from last year, Eric Young, who Jason Fowler talked about, was up on the stage with the team after the win, so he saw an entire year's worth of racing before he rode, and it really prepped him to be the superstar this year.
Just saw one of the riders actually signaling to his pit with a hand signal. It's definitely predetermined, like, hey, here's the hand signal that means I want to get out, and let's do an exchange on this next lap.
Another check of the time after 125 laps.
Got a lot of yellows, got a big wind.
Yeah, definitely a lot slower than previous years.
The riders love this, though. Actually, what they like about it a lot is they like the warm weather, you know, because you got more fans in your section, you're having a little bit more fun. So I know the riders love this.
Absolutely, it makes a huge difference. In fact, I mean, the crowd, the atmosphere, everybody cheering you on. You have your friends and family, alumni in town. It just totally makes the event when the crowd comes out like this.
You can see the Delta Upsilon pit over there. They're on the lead lap, just riding a tremendous race.
10 teams on the lead lap. And so many of these teams with dedicated followings and dressed in their specific colors.
There's Clayton Feldman just crushing it for cutters. It looks like Eric's. Oh no, I think that's Michael Schrader coming out for an exchange. You got a number of teams here. We'll see what happens. One went in. Clayton, that's the fakie that Dylan likes to talk about. He's going to do another lap with Black Key Bulls.
Yeah, you know, well, Black Key Bulls, well, Cutters was doing the burn to come in and do an exchange. You could see down in their pit that they had Eric was going to come out. And then you also had Black Key Bulls looking like they were going to exchange it. And at the last minute, they both pulled a fakie.
Yeah, and Renjay Shea just looks great on the bike right now. Clayton's he's got a little gap on Clayton. He's just killing it. You know, this is almost like a preem lap in a criterium or something like that. You see it pick up and then slow back down. Renjay just took that.
That's right. You see both teams now coming in for an exchange. Hands up. I'm out of the way, fellas. Wow. Just all 4 teams right there doing an exchange all at the same time.
And you saw Schroeder take a lot of steps there. You know, it took him a while to kind of get comfortable and get on the bike. You know, did a good job. A completed exchange is a good exchange, but you do want to take as few steps as you can. Go ahead and hop on.
That's right. It looks like Fiji's also going to do an exchange here.
Ed Vogelin on the bike right now, going to hand it off.
You're going to see a number of teams set up. So Black Key's in first, thanks to Renjay.
Then Cutters, then Major Taylor, then Sigma Nu.
Fiji's get the exchange.
That's really a leap of faith that you saw Schrader do there. After a while, you kind of just learn how to hit the seat. But,
yeah. Definitely done the wrong way, and you can have adverse effects. So it's interesting, you know, we had that little lull, and now everybody's doing exchanges, and the actual exchanges themselves, the way that the riders do it, it actually lifts the overall pace. And then now we're kind of like, okay, now we're all back together. We've all done our exchanges.
Yeah, it's like, you know, that's why we call it a set. You know, each set has its own dynamic, and the set plays out because of who else is on the bike and when exchanges happen and things like that. So yeah, so you do a number of sets and you kind of let it play out.
That's right. So Black Key Bulls, you know, steps on the throttle a little bit there and looks around and wants to see who wants to join the party with him. Well, right behind him is the Cutters, of course. And he's like, all right, come on, let's get going here.
And Black Key Bulls has got to decide, and there's ATO and Fiji as well, they've got to decide how long do they want to play this out? Are they going to play out 200 laps without attacking? Are they going to be comfortable just to ride like this?
What do you think?
I'd like to see a team, and I think we will see a team go on an attack within the last 50 laps of the race. A lot of good teams. There's Delta Tau Delta coming through.
You know, could even be one of these teams that's on the lead lap. There's 10 that we haven't been talking about. That's just kind of lying back, following the wheels, quietly biding their time. Maybe they're just thinking about lap 200.
The 59th little 500, and as we've been instructed and saw yesterday, the last lap is the one that counts when you get down to trying to capture the checkered flag. Wonderful afternoon in Bloomington. And a look at your top 5. 132 laps in the books.
Here we are at the 59th running. Rich talked a little bit earlier about the only 3-time consecutive race winners in this race. We want to take a moment and remember a 3-time winner, Doug Tate, who passed away this month in Evanston, Illinois. Doug was quite a rider, and one of the things his teammates told me today, Al Williams and Bill Brisman, you can see Doug there with his hand up next to the trophy, was that he felt honored that 2 teams would be riding for him today, and those 2 teams are the Cutters and Delta Chi. And I think the other thing that Doug would wish on us today is just that we have a safe day and we keep the rubber side down.
Yeah, quite a close-knit fraternity, all the people who participate in this little 500. And this event is as big and important as anything that happens at Indiana all year.
Yeah, it really is. And to those guys, it's so special. I think Doug just, you know, had a sense of pride for what this race meant to him, and he came back every year. And some of his best friends throughout his life were the guys that he rode with. So it's really just something special that stays with you. And actually, when you look down into the pit, the guy that coaches Delta Chi today, Steve Haferly, was Doug's fraternity dad. So it's just it's a continuity that kind of gives you a sense of place in life, and that's one of the things the Little 500 does for so much of us. And it certainly did for Doug.
Black Key Bulls and Fiji with a bit of a sprint now.
On the inside, you've got Ray Cycling in the orange jersey, Alpha Omega.
Renjay Shea on the bike for Black Key.
Perhaps key number 6, that's Black Key Bulls.
Rhett Denelin for Fiji.
Bulls and also an exchange. Team number 2, Phi Gamma Delta.
Well, it's heating up a little bit here. You can see a couple teams going in for exchanges. There's Black Key Bulls.
Phi Gamma Delta stays out. So you have the exchange from Black Key Bulls, Black Key Bulls.
Got a good gap there. That's Valentin that got that gap. Valentin Tutterow, great gap. Scott Muller getting on the bike for Black Key Bulls. You know, you still we kind of have that mid-race lull going as well. We're at lap 136. You know, it's always exciting with these sets, but it's really going to start to heat up even a little bit more the last 50 laps. The winds kind of really got everyone in check, and we're playing a conservative race right now.
Sigma Phi still up in there, team number 16.
Fiji coming in for an exchange.
Great gap. We probably hear, we can hear it up here. The Fiji fans are really excited. Those guys are riding tremendous today. David Ellis getting on the bike for Fiji. He's got the gap and he's moving. Fiji's really just a huge house on campus, and they've got a lot of brothers and a lot of fans that are out today supporting them. You know, David looks really comfortable right now.
Temperature continues to climb up to 83. Winds at 22, but I promise you some of those gusts are blowing harder than 22.
And what's happened with Fiji right now is they found themselves off the front with a couple teams that are a lap down, and we'll see if any of those teams are strong enough to work with them. I think the Fijis like that. You know, they like that quarter lap lead right now. It keeps them safe, mixing it up a little bit, testing the legs. Fiji's coached by Todd Cornelius. He was a professional racer. He raced for Subway, and we used to race together in Little Five and also in UCF racing once we were done. But they've just got a great program. There you go. David's looking at Todd right now. He's going to keep moving.
In 7, team number 16, number Sigma Pi. In 8, team number 4, team number Taylor. In 9, team number 9.
And on the grease board that was shown to Fiji, it said smart tempo.
I don't know, Dylan, what do you think of this little breathe right strip he's got over his nose? Did you ever do that?
I never used those, but you know what? I've seen a lot of riders do it. I've seen a lot of different athletes use them, and at the end of the day, if it makes you think you're going to go faster, that's all that matters.
If you're getting a little bit more oxygen in, you're carrying the red blood cells to your muscles a little bit faster.
Every little ounce of advantage helps.
David looks good. He looks like he's really getting it right now.
Yeah,
he's out there. I think he got the signal to go one more.
That's right. His coach told him, said, all right, look, one more lap out of you and make it count. Going to come in and do an exchange.
Well, the lead keeps growing, and the fans are only getting wilder down there in the Fiji pit. He's got something good going right now.
Strong ride by David Ellis. J.D. King will take the bike next for Fiji, who has the lead.
Yeah, Fiji crowd out of control. The other teams are now forced to react.
And this is the point that you guys had talked about and expected to happen at some point in the race, and we're 142 laps in.
That's right. You know, if Fiji's making the race, you know, maybe this move works, maybe it doesn't, but what's happening is it's setting up the next move. It's setting up the counter attack. And that's what some of the other teams like Black Key Bulls and Cutters are really going to look to. So maybe the bunch will bring Fiji back, but that's the perfect time. That's the perfect springboard to launch another attack.
A.D. King on the bike for Fiji. He's getting closed right now by Phi Psi. You know, both two teams with great traditions. Fiji's appeared in every Little 500 56 times. There's Phi Psi coming in, setting it up well as Sigma Chi.
Right, so Phi Psi and Sigma Chi doing an exchange there.
Fiji riders staying out, you know, liking the lead, punching the pace a little bit.
Let's go downstairs and check in with Hans.
Coach is flashing smart tempo 3 to 4. It looks to me like they're putting their riders in, try to do some time trialing sets out there. See what sort of a gap they can get on this field right now. It looks to be working, but you're starting to see some teams react. They're starting to recognize that this is a serious attack. Team Major Taylor is going on the attack right now, trying to close this gap.
Hans, yeah, and the thing about this, I don't know if Hans is still on, but it's just with this headwind, it's so hard to be off the front. Like, the guys like to have a gap, they like to ride aggressive, but it's just so hard to be out there on your own when there's greater than 20-mile-per-hour wind.
What are your thoughts on that, Hans?
That's right. I mean, if you're out there isolated, the only option you have is to just push as hard as you can. If you're a really strong rider, this headwind can actually be an advantage for you. Because this is a single-speed bike, if you can turn that gear over, if you're really powerful, you can use that as an advantage. But the weaker teams, if you're out there isolated, you're going to recognize and they're not going to be able to push through it. This gap is going to come down. And it looks here like they're just getting eaten up and they're going to be right back in the pack.
Indeed they are off the exchange. Fiji back in the pack now.
You know, it looks like Cutters is going to have to do a little work there to get back on. Not necessarily the best time or best way to do an exchange, but going back right up to the front and actually making an attack would be great. Let's go back and check out this highlight from Hans when he was racing.
2006, talk about somebody who raced alone. And the wide smile from the little 500 Hall of Famer as he had this one well in hand.
Winning a race solo like that is the best because you have time to celebrate. You know you've got the race won, barring any kind of catastrophic accident like a flat tire or something like that. But ultimately, you have a little moment in time where you can relax and sit up and wave to the crowd, raise the roof a little bit, as we like to say.
Yeah, that's right. Hans, what are your memories of that race?
2006 was such a fun race. That was our main goal for the day, was to come out here and have fun, and it sure paid off. Like you said, being on the front, a lap ahead, you have all the time to recognize the victory and just have fun with it. I bet for everybody else, it might not have been that fun, but we sure had a good day out there. It's such a great race, and it's fun to come back here year after year and still be involved with it.
Absolutely happy to have the Hall of Famer as part of our HDNet broadcast crew. But 148 laps of 200 completed.
Start working back on the front. They're up. Maybe about 2 bikes into the field, just going into the fourth turn.
We're getting into the last part of the race. You know, we like to refer to this as the final. You know, everything leading up to this has set up the final showdown, so to speak.
Good rider exchange there for Black Key Bulls. That was Jordan Bailey that brought it in.
Yeah, great exchange. Puts his teammate right back out in front. Doesn't have to do a lot of work. He slots right in there. Gets to draft into the headwind on the backstretch. Here's another look.
You know, so it's really about just kind of keeping it clean, keeping it smooth. The things you think about are you want to kind of lock your elbow in a 90-degree angle, right? And get that hand right where the stem's coming in. And you also want to have your momentum. It's all about pace. You know, you take off at the right time, keep it in a straight line, and just kind of keep it smooth. That's right. See the Sigma Chi rider, he tapped himself on the head. He's probably going to be coming out for an exchange soon. Cutters is also on the front.
Yeah, you know, unlike professional cycling, these riders aren't allowed, according to the rules, to use race radios. So they have to rely on hand signals and pit boards, just like in car racing, which is actually pretty cool.
That's right. It came up a couple of years ago, you know, because actually there's so much funding that goes into each team. There's thousands of dollars that are funded from alumni, but that came up. Can we use race radios in the race? And I think we have a little element of old school here. Staying old school, staying with the pit boards.
Yeah.
And part of the great traditions here at the Little 500.
50 laps to go. I don't think we're going to be even close to some of the previous fast times of the race. It just goes to show you how much of an effect the headwind is having on this race, much like in the women's race yesterday.
Alpha Tau Omega pulling through there. Let's look for them. They're going to be coming in for an exchange. We got a couple teams setting up here on the front stretch. ATO's got a bike exchange. Those are used a little bit easier. Rider exchange by Sigma Chi, faster exchange.
Yeah, you know, I saw the Sigma Chi. It looked like his saddle was pointing down. Almost as if he maybe had a broken saddle. You know, with all the crashes that happen.
Yeah, each time you do an exchange, the bike gets speed up as well. There's really kind of a lot that can happen to a bike in a day. Each team with one mechanic to take care of that bike.
BG with the good sprint. You know, and they'll do the exchange. And a clean race, no penalties thus far.
You know, it's interesting, we just saw Fiji doing an exchange there, and that's actually an interesting opportunity for, say, Cutters or one of the other teams to take advantage of that and really turn the throttle up and make the exchange that much more difficult for Fiji, right? Because then they have to burn some matches to catch back on.
Well, we've done a good job with no penalties, but we have not been void of some cinder burns.
Oh, and that's one that happened in the gutter there. That's the rider that we talked to with the broken collarbone.
Yeah, these really just chain reaction crashes, you know.
Oh, and that one you really can't see what happened, right?
No,
It just kind of seemed like the Cutter's rider went down on his own and they closed that.
Yeah.
Phi Delta with a little stem kind of working out. Ooh. Luckily they're wearing those specialized helmets because they are hitting the ground hard.
Yeah, they're definitely getting some use out of the helmets today.
And that can end your day.
Well, he's going to end up with a funny tan line at the end of the day like that. That's okay. It's a badge of honor for being the little 5 rider. One that I'm sure he'll wear proudly over the next couple of weeks. Having that broken collarbone will make for great conversation.
Phi Delta with the handoff.
You know, again, the exchanges and how clean that they have been so far really goes to show how much work these teams have put into coming up and being prepared for race day. You know, Jason, how much time do these guys spend on all the different aspects of the race, right? Because it's not just the exchanges, but it's also all of the qualifying events that lead up to today's race. It determines where you start on the pole.
Yeah, you've got a lot to think about. I mean, so you've got your training and you've got your fitness, which involves time on rollers. Really, rollers are really good for intervals. So right, so you've got your long miles first, and then your intervals once spring comes around. And the other thing that a normal cyclist wouldn't need to think about is this exchange, this idea of an exchange and the team dynamic. So you've really got to worry about your fitness as well as the exchange, which is unique for a little 5. So a lot of time goes into that. A lot of time from the riders as well as the student foundation and the steering committee that put on this race. You know, they're here late at night doing the things just to make this race happen and make it such an incredible event.
And you mentioned all of the hard work put in by students, but then all of the volunteers that you see around, manning the stands, working the gates, collecting tickets.
Black Key Bulls riding a great race so far.
You know, and I see Phi Delta Theta, but they must be a lap or 2 down. Black Key Bulls, you know, again on the front, just looking around. They don't have to make the race. They just need to stay in the front.
Delta Tau.
Real good look there at Black Key Bulls and Alpha Tau Omega. Black Key Bulls has never won the race. I think Alpha Tau Omega's run a couple times, Hans being one of them, leading his team there. One of Hans's former teammates, Steve Zimba, is still on the team today, so he's got a championship and brings that experience in.
All the riders just looking around, not really interested in taking a hard pull, but they want to stay at the front. Less than 50 laps to go.
I get the sense there's kind of a storm brewing in a way, you know, amongst this race. We've eaten up these laps and we've gotten through a number of sets, but there's a storm brewing at some point. You're either going to see some attacks. That's going to happen likely, and you'll also see a really spectacular sprint finish.
Yeah, that's a great reference, Jason. You know, pretty soon, especially with the wind the way it's blowing today, we're going to call this the Tornado 500. Definitely a storm brewing in the field right now. Everybody looking around, waiting for somebody to throw down the hammer. And here comes Sigma Nu.
And we'll give you a more complete look at lap 160, but you can see great racing through the first 3 quarters of this race. There's the bike exchange for Delta Sigma Pi.
Good bike exchange by Sigma Pi. Grey Goat Cycling looks like maybe they're also going to come in and do an exchange. And right on his wheel, Black Key Bulls.
Alpha Tau Omega.
ATO. Fiji, just a couple of lengths off the back of those guys. You know, hey, this maybe Black Key Bulls and ATO, maybe this is the moment that they make their move.
Yeah, stretching out a bit.
Looks like they are caught. Phi Psi coming in to do an exchange.
That's a great acceleration there by Phi Psi. They're in a tough pit, coming right out of the corner and doing an exchange. So, you know, late burn.
That's right. He's got to do the burn into the headwind section.
Sigma Chi as well, riding a good race, good exchange. Just still eating up laps. We're at 161.
Oh, a little bobble there, and there goes the rider down. You know, at the back of the pack. And
yeah, you see those, a lot of times the color jerseys are not one single color, but they're multicolor. Those are the teams that started in the back, and a lot of times those are the teams that we also see down on the ground.
Yeah, you know, it's just, that shows how much experience and how much preparation goes into having an effect on how well you race as a team in this event.
Black Key Bulls, just their 4th appearance in the Little 500, their best ever finish, 7th.
You got to look at Dodds House that went by there on the outside. Dodds House with a great tradition and a number of people that have done a lot for the race. Jonathan Purvis, Kurt Simic, and Alex Enan. They've been in those race director roles, and they also work at the foundation. So, you know, you ride in the race, and then you come back and you also do things for it. And Dodds House has certainly produced a number of those young men.
We had 160 laps, 1 hour, 48 minutes, and 5 seconds, our lap time. Grego Cycling in the lead, team number 7, followed by team number 6, Black Key Bulls, and third, team number 2.
Fiji make a push to the front of the pack.
Oh, that's a great gap. You saw him get up out of the saddle and just accelerate. Really kind of turning the screw right now.
You know, the wind is really picking up. You know, a couple of minutes ago on the camera, we saw the cinders just blowing around. Fiji really throwing down the hammer right now. Cutter's trying to close that gap. He's going to go right over the top of him.
And see, that's somewhat demoralizing for that Fiji rider because he kind of left it all out there. He's let it hang, and Clayton was on him.
And Fiji will exchange at AD King. Will now get on the bike. Cutter's doing exchange as well. Schroeder back on the pedals.
That's a good ride by that. The Fiji rider looks exhausted. Looks like Rhett Dineline there. You know, it's kind of this. You just want to leave it out on the track, and that kind of looks like what Rhett's doing right now. He's not keeping anything for tomorrow. He's letting it all go.
Lap 165.
19 also staying up in there, Sigma Phi. We've scored 165 laps. We're on lap 166.
There you go, Rubbins racing. We're going to see what happens on this stretch. I think we got a little bump action. Maybe not. Actually, that looks like a bad front wheel.
That's right.
Oh, flat tire.
Front flat tire.
Well, so that can be a number of things. Sometimes they're either overinflated or, you know, hopefully there's nothing on the track that caused that flat, or it could be a pinch flat. Pinch flat. You never know. I mean, there's a proper level of inflation that you need to have with those tires, and obviously they didn't have it quite there.
So what does he have to do? Does he have to make a bike exchange, or
you just need to touch? You just what you do is you bring the good bike out on the track. You just need to touch or start at the same point on the track in which that mechanical happened.
Right.
So they get to Delta Delta. It looks like they're setting up for an exchange. You're on the press box straight. Delta Delta, Phi Gamma Delta.
So it looks like we have 10 teams on the lead lap still. Interestingly enough, 9 of the top 10 teams here are started in the top part of the grid. However, props to Delta Upsilon, started in 23rd position, but they're on the lead lap right now.
You've got it, man. They're contenders for hand out a number of awards in the spring, but the Dixie Highway Award is a team that improves their position the most from start to finish. And so Delta Upsilon really kind of stomping at the bit today for that Dixie Highway.
Definitely going to win the Dixie Highway Award.
Cutters and Fiji continuing to jockey at the front. There's Delta Upsilon and the yellow, blue, and white top. 33 laps to go.
Yeah, we've got a lot of our favorites still around, right, Dylan? We've got Fiji, we've got Cutters, Team Major Taylor, Delta Tau Delta, Black Key Bulls, Grey Goat only in their second race.
That's right, the new team.
Sigma Chi is the team that's back on campus that won in the 90s. ATO.
Yep, Phi Psi also up in there.
Phi Psi team with
Delta
seven wins. So it's really looking to be an exciting finish. I see a sprint finish happening today.
Grey Goat Cycling with the handoff, and Fiji trying to keep their streak going of winning one race in every decade. 56, 65, 67, 75, 87, and 1995. Their last win in the Little 500.
And that kind of goes for them just having a tremendous house. They do very well in intramurals. They don't just come on for 2 or 3 years, but they've done well in all 59 years. So really it's just kind of a tremendous house that is competitive on campus.
Last message out on that grease board. J.D. King was 9 or 10 more laps.
So this is where the strategy starts to come into play. We have 30 laps left to go, 10 teams on the lead lap. The teams are already starting to think about, okay, who do we want to be? Which one of our riders do we want to have in there for the last lap? And so they're starting to work it out. So he says, okay, I want you in there 9 more laps. And then he's going to put one of the other riders in for 3 or 4 laps. And then it's all going to come down to one rider with the weight of winning the race on his shoulders. And that's what he's saying. He said, I need 8 more laps out of you.
Kenny Parks on the bike for TMT. Kind of surprised to see him still out there. I think he is their best sprinter. Yeah, but you're right, Dylan. They're going to look to set it. You guys set it up the right way, which is going to involve a couple more sets, right, and then getting the right guy out there at the end. Speaking of the right guy, you see Eric Young with a little acceleration. I think he'll bring it in, and this will probably be his last set until we get to the white flag.
Absolutely, you know, and Eric just looks great on the bike, nice and smooth, really aerodynamic, good position, comfortable. Going to come into here, do a great exchange, and really set up his teammate great. You know, Michael Schroeder's back in there for cutters. A little bit of a bobble there, but that's okay because he's right in there in the top 5, which is exactly where he wants to be.
Grey Goat making a move.
Yeah, and you see Schroeder just kind of, he wasn't wasting any time. He's getting right with Grey Goat. That's where he needs to be. Great job
on the bike for Grey Goat.
Well, you know, Grey Goat's coming in to do an exchange right now. Cutter's right on his wheel. Grey Goat's going to pull out Cutters. This is the opportunity for them to lay it down. This might be their move.
Oh, and I saw Fowler in the pit telling him to take it easy. Schrader looks great. He got a little bit antsy.
You know, talked a lot about Fiji. Hans is down in the Fiji pit.
Fiji pit, the Phi Gamma Delta coach. What's your strategy for the end of the race? It's getting pretty fast right about now.
Well, there's still quite a few teams left on the lead lap, so you know, I'm just trying to keep my sprinter as fresh as possible and keeping them off the bike. And you know, at this point, it's just kind of a roll of the dice. You know, we have about 27 laps left, so you know, just put my sprinter on the bike with time to get up there, settle in, and do a good sprint.
Who's your sprinter this year?
We got a couple young guys that we're going to look to this year. So we got a couple young guys that have done really well in series events, so I'm going to look to one of them.
Okay. Fiji's looking for it to come down to a sprint. Good luck.
Thank you.
I think Todd wasn't looking to reveal who's going to be on the bike at the end, because there's a couple other teams there too. You know, you don't want to set it up too much.
You know, it's funny, you know, maybe he feels like some of the other teams are listening in on the broadcast. I can tell you from experience in professional races, we have radios in each team car, and all of the riders have radios, and we talk between the team car and the radios, and we found out that some of the other teams were listening in on our conversation, so then we started using code words and actually changing the frequencies all the time.
Cutters have been assessed a penalty.
Wow, that could really have an effect on the outcome of their race. So it looks like the penalty was for riding in the gutters and passing, which is against the rules. You're not allowed to make an advanced move or change in position up the gutter.
And I'm really interested to see at what point did that happen. I think we missed that.
Yes.
So they've got to serve a 3-second penalty nonetheless here in the last 25 laps of the race.
Well, the other teams are going to know about that and look to key off of that penalty.
They thought about coming in for an exchange, and then they got waved on.
So Michael's talking to his coach and saying, when do you want me to serve that penalty? And he's saying, all right, look.
Michael's in a really tough spot right now because all the other teams saw him go by the pit. They saw his coach say, get up the road, and they're all marking him right now.
Right. So as soon as he comes in to serve that penalty, the other teams are going to lay it down and really turn the screws to him.
He's still got a gap. He's persevering here. So last 25 laps of the race, the other team's got to make this tough for him right now.
Now he's going to do an exchange, so that's smart. Let a fresh rider serve the penalty. So that's Clayton back in the race. Clayton Feldman for Cutters. Obviously, Michael not happy with that decision from the refs.
Yeah, but a great set for him. Really great set for Schroeder, a rookie. I'm getting word that the Cutters have 10 laps to serve that penalty. Looked like the penalty happened in turn 2. We didn't catch it. Maybe we'll get a replay. But the penalty happened on lap 173, in which somebody was riding the gutter. I think that must have been Schrader.
So,
here it comes.
Okay, Cutter's going to serve the penalty now.
And this is really pressing right now. You know, with 178, we got 22 laps left. What happens now is very, very key for the Cutters.
Absolutely. You know what's interesting is I don't see a big reaction from the other teams on the front of the main field. I mean, we see Clayton now. He's got about a half lap, well, a quarter lap to close. And he's got a little bit of traffic in front of him. He can do it, but he's going to have to do it quickly. You know, Cutters has really had to do a lot of work today. This is the second time that they've had a significant gap to make up.
Both for penalties.
That's right.
You know, they had a couple bobbles as well.
And don't forget the crash, too, that they had to make up front. And they've been able to overcome it each time. Can they do it and try to go for the three-peat?
The little 500 gods are really throwing a lot at the Cutters team today. You know, they're going to make them earn that victory, that's for sure.
Completely agree. This is a very, very tough race to win, let alone win 3 times. And the Cutters are shooting for it today.
So I see Fiji's down in the pit getting ready to make an exchange. His coach is probably telling him, all right, make this exchange count and then turn the screws. Let's make Cutters really pay here. This is our opportunity to make the race.
Ted Boglin on the bike now for Fiji. 19 laps to go.
You can tell the pace is picking up a little bit. It's single file right now, so some teams are reacting. With so many teams together, that helps Clayton because he's going to be able to pick one off one at a time.
Well, you know, also sometimes when the pace is a little bit higher, it makes the peloton longer. So it actually shortens the distance that you have to close.
And you're seeing that. It's about a half a straightaway lead now. The leaders, Black Key Bowls, Alpha Tau Omega, have on the Cutters.
It'll be interesting to see if the Cutters employ that same strategy of getting the gap close and manageable and then putting in Eric or one of the other guys to just really shut it down quickly.
Here we are. They're closing it. I'm amazed that they're 8 wide right now and the pace is crawling. I am amazed right now that Delta Upsilon, these other teams, you know, didn't want to punch it with the Cutters being down. They must have not had the communication, must have not had the teamwork, you know, to push the pace.
Total missed opportunity to really put Cutters in the hurt locker. A lot of teams doing exchanges right now. You know, we're getting down to the last 20 laps.
So Clayton's getting a draft right there. He's not in contact with the pack, but he's getting a little bit of a draft. He's going to weave through some of the riffraff.
Grey Goat going to do an exchange as well.
Sigma Chi pointing that they're coming out. Kenny Parks on for Team Major Taylor.
You know, Kenny, and you see Kenny just sitting there looking around, quietly sitting in, following the wheels, not doing any work. You know, you can tell this is a sprinter's team. They want this to come down to a field sprint.
And what did you notice about Kenny earlier that kind of indicated that he might be a sprinter?
Well, you know, he's got the big shoulders and the style that he's on the bike, and, you know, just huge legs.
Kind of reminds you maybe of a Marty Nothstein on the track or somebody.
For more on the Cutter's penalty, let's check in with Hans.
I'm here with Eric Young in the Cutter's pit. The penalty was assessed when he was on riding in the inside. What happened out there?
I went to get a gap. I passed in the inside because out of 2, the entire pack has been swinging wide. I know 100% I did not ride in the gutter, so I'm a little pissed. But Clayton has done an awesome job of catching us back up after serving the penalty, and we're back in the race.
There you have it. These guys are here to win.
Tough to see.
I didn't see that. I'm going to go on record. I didn't see him going in the gutter there.
Well, he certainly didn't. I think he ended up in the gutter.
There's nothing awesome better for a race with some good controversy and drama, you know.
Spice it up a bit.
You never know what's going to happen in the gutter.
Team Major Taylor.
Well, and I can't
Cutters and Fiji.
I can't indicate too much, but I do know that history tells me that they like to have multiple winners in this race. So, and I'm not going to allude to anything more than that, but there's been a lot of rules throughout the history that have kept this race competitive, and it certainly is this year. We've got 10 in the lead lap.
Still 10 teams in the lead lap with 16 laps to go. I'm actually pretty surprised that there's that many riders still in the first group.
Oh, I'm definitely surprised. We haven't seen a finish like this, Dylan, really since '99. So we've gone 10 years since we've seen this number of teams on the lead lap.
Now, what about all of the other lap traffic that's in there in this first group? Are they going to be pulled out on the last couple of laps to let the 10 teams on the lead lap fight it out, or is it just all one big mosh pit?
No. Yeah, the teams that are on the lead lap get to sprint, and the other teams are going to move to the outside and let those teams through.
15 laps to go. How many exchanges do you expect from the various teams?
I think we're going to see 3 to 4 more exchanges. I'm going to go with 3. Really kind of depending on when you get that rider on. One of the things the race has changed, you used to put the sprinters on with maybe 10 laps to go. What I've noticed in the last couple of years is they put them on a lot later. Lap 195, lap 196 even, we're putting sprinters on these days. So the race has really evolved since 1951 when we started.
What do you think, fellas? Is it too soon or too late to make a prediction? Do either of you have a pick for the victory here?
Based on, I'll go first. I go with Team Major Taylor, just because of, now this is based on, I've been to one little 500, watched the women's race yesterday, and the team that wanted us a team we didn't talk about much the whole time. So Team Major Taylor, who's just been there the whole time. I don't know what they have left in the tank with regard to sprinters, but that's my pick.
Well,
for
Rich,
now.
that was going to be my pick, but I'll let you have it. I have to, give huge props to Michael Ball and Rock Racing and that whole program, and it's great to see them involved in this race with Major Taylor. But so since you have that, and Jason, I'm going to let you have Cutters, because I know that's who you're going to pick. You have to pick them. In fact, if you didn't pick them, you probably wouldn't be safe.
Well, I was going to
say
for
Bloomington.
I was going to say, I'm rooting for the Cutters.
Yes.
But I think that Fiji has a good shot today. Okay. I think with 4 good riders, I think Fiji has a good shot. And Rich's pick with TMT is good too. There's TMT coming in for an exchange. Who's yours, Dylan?
I'm going to go for the underdog and pick Grey Goat.
Very nice. Second race ever.
I think guys in town.
That's a solid pick. We had that little piece from them earlier. They've certainly got a good team. They've got the Keel brothers, Matthew and Ryan. Family affair for them.
Shaping up to be
we have a yellow flag.
Yellow flag after an accident over in turn 3.
Phi Delta have just had a horrible day. I mean, starting on the first part of the grid and having such a great position and really losing laps early on in the race, and then here we have another crash, and it looks like he's hurt. His teammate, mechanic, and coach are running across the field right now, the infield. Here's the shot. Here's the crash. And you can see just overlapped wheels. And see what happened there is he overlapped wheels, lost his balance, and then fell over. You see that happen sometimes. And again, it's because of the difficulty that the riders are having with the changes in the speed in the headwind and not having handbrakes. They're not able to slow down so that they don't overlap. Looks like he might be okay, just has to walk it off a little bit.
I think that's Nick Savinsky for the Phi Delta team. He's a Bloomington native and really kind of a great rider. He came in as a good rider, and he's continued that. We hope he's okay. He looks like he's going to be okay.
We haven't had a finish point like this in a few years, ladies and gentlemen.
Yellow flag still out. Everyone needs to maintain their positions. Does this yellow flag help anybody, as now the green flag waves again?
Here goes the green. Cutters and Grey Goat right on the front. Major Taylor really making a move there on the outside, and he's got to be careful because that's where all the loose cinders are.
That's a scary place to be. On the outside of the track, you don't have the groove where everyone's been riding all day, and it's a lot more risky.
That's right. Our brothers over in NASCAR would call it looser than a goose coming out of one of those corners up there in the cinders. But it looks like he might be coming in to do an exchange. We have 10 laps to go here, so this is where they're trying to decide, okay, who do I want in there for the finish? Who's my sprinter? We asked the Fiji coach, he wouldn't allude, but he knows which guy he wants in there for the end.
Team Major Taylor really riding well. That was a great pick, Rich. They've finished in the top 10 5 times, right, in their short career, so that's a great pick.
And always lots of controversy around some of the riders that they have on their team. I think one of the riders that they had one year was Bahati.
Well, Bahati helped out. He never got to ride in the race. There was an element of recruiting that happened.
Sure.
That's been resolved now, but you're not allowed to ride as a Category 1 racer. You can enter the race as a Category 4, and you can move up to a Category 2, and then you have 1 year to ride. But you can't enter the race as a 1 or a 2 because they want to keep the race competitive.
Alfonso Egink on the bike for TMT.
A lot of exchanges going on here.
See Grey Goat Cycling, your pick, Dylan. Still riding well. See the Cutters there, and Black Key Bowls, Delta Upsilon.
Fiji also there, moving up on the outside, getting right on the Cutters wheel.
Oh, it's starting to get fun because here we are on 192 with 8 to go. And what you're seeing is the last exchanges, you're seeing the pace start to pick up. Grey Goats, I think Grey Goats coming in for an exchange, and what's happened is they've been marked. They've been marked by the Cutters.
They're going to give it off to Matthew Keel.
Oh, yeah. Clayton did a great job there.
Great exchange by Grey Goat. Also great exchange by Fiji. Getting right in there. Major Taylor forcing the pace along with Black Key Bulls. Cutters a little bit off the front, but Black Key Bulls shutting down that gap.
Yeah, shutting it down real quick. Great effort there for Black Key Bulls.
Delta Upsilon again on fourth.
Cutters looking for a three-peat.
As Valentin Tutterow for Black Key Bulls, closing that gap.
Cutters coming in to do an exchange. They're going to put Eric Young in on the bike.
So Eric Young's the sprinter for the Cutters, it looks like, and Renjay Shea for Black Key Bulls is the sprinter.
Yeah, and Renjay is right there on Eric.
Oh, this is really getting exciting. We got 6 to go.
Both going to the front. Looks like Major Taylor doing a berm, coming in to do an exchange.
We got a couple of your picks there, guys. You got TMT up with a little gap, and you got Grey Goat Cycling. Fiji's in the pack right there in white. Phi Psi, team number 11 in the pack.
Matthew Keel making some noise for Grey Goat.
Grey Goat coming in to do another exchange, and so is Major Taylor. And if these guys do their exchanges correctly, they'll come in together.
Brian Holthouse on the bike now for Grey Goat.
And Brian had to go around on the outside of that Major Taylor ride. They just got done doing an exchange. 5 laps to go. This is it.
Yeah, this is it. You got Delta Tau Delta on the front, stringing it out a little bit. You know, one of our underdogs pulling it together today. You got Cutters closing that on their wheel, and Fiji's and Black Key Bulls.
Oh, the crowd can sense it.
Amazing.
4 laps.
Again, Grey Goat doing another exchange. That's an interesting strategy. Because look, he has to close that gap now, but they're going to slow down at the front.
So the series event that simulates this the most is Missing Out. And in the finals of Missing Out, we had the Delta Upsilon rider, David Richardson Rosbach, and we also had Eric Young. And those two guys are going to find themselves here at the end of this race with the exact same finish. In that one, Richardson Rosbach got the win in Missing Out. So we'll see if Eric can kind of can overcome that.
Here you see Cutters and Black Key Bulls both keying off of each other, not wanting to take the lead. Phi side being forced to the front. BG on the outside, sorry, on the inside going into turn 1.
So this last set is really interesting, folks. You really don't want to be on the front right now. You want to be sitting close to the front, but not quite on the front, and you're focused, right? You're focused all in position for that last lap.
The other thing to remember is, we see the gray goat rider at the back on the inside, and that's really hard to move up there. And look, Major Taylor coming in to do another exchange.
They're doing a lot of exchanges, Dylan. This is a really, really late exchange. They're trying to get Kenny Parks back on the bike. 197, they've got 3 to go.
Fiji or Cutters, this is their opportunity to put Major Taylor out of the race. Because if they were to throw it down here with 2 laps to go, they could eliminate one of the best sprinting teams in this race, but it doesn't look like they're going to take that opportunity. Coming down the backstretch, they're 5, 6 riders wide.
So Kenny Parks for Team Major Taylor's closing that gap. He's in pink.
We'll see if the strategy pays off.
And look at Major Taylor coming right on the outside.
He's coming right to the front. You can see the cinders just blowing around in their faces. We got the white flag.
This is it, 1 to go.
Eric Young's on the front for the Cutters, leaning into turn number 1. You got Phi Gamma Delta, David Ellis on their wheel, Team Major Taylor, Kenny Parks sitting 3rd. Here they are in the headwind stretch.
Cutters.
And really laying it down in the headwind stretch.
Looking for a 3-peat.
Eric's up out of the saddle. He's clearly the fastest man right now.
This is it, race over. And Cutters is going to win this again into the tailwind section.
He's got a huge gap coming out of turn 4. He won this on the back stretch.
Hands up.
And the Cutters win it. 3 straight.
Unbelievable finish.
He left nothing to risk there.
You know what?
He made that happen on the backstretch.
What a ride by Young.
Nobody deserved to win this race more than the Cutters. We saw it from the beginning. They took responsibility. First laps, they crashed. They had flat, everything's unbelievable. And then they came back 2 times from being off the back and then took responsibility on the last lap and won.
And served 2 penalties.
2 penalties on top of that. I mean, what else could have happened? Rich, we talked yesterday into this headwind section, and oftentimes what sprinters will do is the race is won and lost into the first corner or into the last corner, because once you get into that last corner or turn to number 3, nothing is going to change out of 4 because of the tailwind section, and we saw that. In fact, he put in such a huge dig on the back section into the headwind that the Fiji and Major Taylor riders couldn't even hold his wheel. He basically just rode them right off their wheel.
Well, you had called it just as he was coming out of turn 3 that the race was over, and it wasn't close coming down the home stretch.
Absolutely. He enters team at turn 3, and look at the gap that he has already. I mean, there's nobody even close.
That was turn 2. He's coming. Oh, I'm sorry. That's turn 4. He's already got it. Looks like Team Major Taylor got 2nd and Delta Tau Delta 3rd. We'll wait for the official. 10th win for the Cutters.
And the celebration begins.
You get a look at that pit. That's Jason Fowler, their coach, and Jason Eiselman, who's the student coach, just going nuts.
Well, you guys got to hand it to the Cutters. They just really took responsibility, took the race by the horns, and won it.
Our unofficial results.
That's Delta Tau Delta getting 2nd, and Fiji in that 3rd spot.
And you saw Team Major Taylor really faded there at the end. That exchange strategy that they had didn't really play out.
Yeah, there's no question that late exchange probably cost Kenny a little bit catching up to the pack.
Well, the Cutters extend it to 3 straight championships, their 10th win in the Little 500, the most ever of any team. We'll take a timeout and come back to the awards presentation here on HDNet. Eric Young crosses the finish line for the Cutters.
Welcome back to the Little 500 on HDNet.
Wonderful afternoon of racing, the biggest collegiate bicycle race in the country, and the Cutters, the most dominant team in the history of this race.
Yeah, 9 championships, and it goes into just really a lot that they put together, from Delta Chi to the Cutters. You know, Jim Kirkham, Todd Neville, Jason Fowler seem to win every year the last couple of years.
3 straight, and now 9 championships coming in. Today gets them into double digits, 10 wins in the little 500.
Yeah, that's really amazing, you know. You know, yesterday we talked about Delta Gamma, we talked about some of the other teams that we thought were the favorites, and Pi Phi's came out of nowhere to win the race. And it was a great race on their part. But there's something just great about watching a team take such control of a race and have to fight so much adversity and overcome so much and come up with a victory.
2 penalties, total of 5 seconds they had to sit out.
A crash. That's right.
And their ability at the end, and Fiji's streak of winning one in every decade goes by the wayside.
The 3rd place finish still, it helps position them. They're first in the all-time standing. So every year they come in with a great performance. You know, Fiji's deserve a lot of praise there. Great race today.
3rd place finish.
Your runner-up in this tremendously exciting finish today, team number 5, Delta Tau Delta.
Delta Tau Delta now will take the stage. The 2nd place finishers.
Gregory Amaze from Fisher. John Marvold from Fishers. And Matt Nibler from Indianapolis.
Matt Nibler, John
Delta Tau Delta.
Myvold, Gregory Maves, and Matthew Lee.
These guys can all be proud. They rode a great race. You know, they were in there. They have some nice hardware to take home to the house tonight. All the students, you know, it's great. Obviously, Fiji really proud of their team. The whole crowd heading home to take a little nap, maybe recover for today.
And here are the champions. 3 straight for the Cutters, 10 overall, the most in the history of the Little 500. Clayton Feldman, Zachary Lusk, Michael Schroeder, and Eric Young, the anchor in the sprint at the end.
That's great. You know, now they'll have the honor of wearing the yellow jersey again next year.
I talked with Randy Strong last night. He rode on the first Cutters team in 1984, and they've really started quite a tradition. He told me, Randy Strong rode on Delta Chi, then he rode on the Cutters and helped start the Cutters. And what he told me, the decisive moment was he came into the Delta Chi house one night and the alumni board was meeting, and they told him to go around. And he said he was been out in the snow and the rain for hours. He said, "What do you mean I need to go around?" You know, and those guys left the house and formed the Cutters, and here they are with their 10th championship today. It was he and Adam Giles and Chris Gutowski.
Tell us a little bit about the hardware.
And the big one that had come out, there's a number of them. It's the Board Warner Trophy. It simulates, it looks and appears just like the Indy 500 trophy. Of course, we're patterned after the Indy 500.
That's right, and the Cutters will now find their name on that trophy 10 times, more than any other team in history. There, of course, is the little 500 Schwinn bike. Do the winners get to keep their bikes?
Yeah, you do keep the bikes.
Right.
I think what we'll see, a lot of times you see it go up into the stands. I don't know if we'll see that today, but they'll get to take a victory lap.
Sure.
Board Warner Trophy.
And it's great too that, you know, you have the whole support staff of the team up on the stage as well. It really goes to show you how much work and how many people are behind a winning team. It's not just 4 riders, but it's a whole squad.
Hans is down with the winning team.
What a fantastic race for you guys today. You overcame an early pre-race penalty.
Yep.
You guys closed a quarter of a lap gap from a crash. You guys had the late penalty in the race.
Yep.
It wasn't a problem for you. You let it out with a monster sprint. What was your strategy going in the last lap?
I mean, I'm going to start out with the whole year, and that is we've come over a lot of adversity. This is an incredible rebuilding year, and to win this year, it just lends credit to every single person we have helping. And the determination of every single one of our riders. The last lap, I pretty much, I had a feeling I could beat everybody, so I don't know, I just saw Kenny going, and I passed him, and then down the backstretch, there was so much noise, I just let it all go. And
it was a great sprint, monster sprint, huge gap at the end. This is a record 10th victory.
Yeah, that's awesome.
3 years in a row.
That's awesome.
And you're a
That is
sophomore.
awesome.
You're a sophomore, right?
Yes, I am.
So you've got 2 more years to ride in this
Correct.
race. You must be looking forward to it.
Definitely. There is nothing more that I would rather be doing during college. This is the greatest event in the world.
There you have it. Fantastic race. Great job.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Hans. Wonderful afternoon.
Yeah, Eric shuts it down with a couple comments to remember there. You know, this really is the greatest college weekend, and Eric summed it up quite well there.
Final thoughts, gentlemen?
Again, you know, just unbelievable event. The crowd just says so much. It's just amazing how this whole city comes together with the alumni, the students, the charity that they do, and how much fundraising. I'm just happy to be a part of it. And, you know, we saw the right team win the race today.
Yeah, the only thing I have to add is what a competitive race, right? You know, like over 10 teams on the lead lap, the entire race. What a competitive field we have, and you know, I think it's only going to continue to get better. I think a lot of these teams, Delta Tau Delta was an up-and-coming team, right? Finished second. I think we'll be competitive for a number of years here.
The yellow jersey will remain on the Cutters for another year. The dynasty continues their domination, their 10th championship. Congratulations to the Cutters, another victory in the Little 500. The executive producer of HDNet and our director today, Daryl Ewald. Today's show produced by Bo Vongeson. Our production manager, Mike Hurd. Engineers, Dan Neighbors, Andy Miranda, and Glenn Moore. Special thank you to all the people here at IU, Indiana University, and the Indiana University Student Foundation. And for my partners, Jason Sonnenborn, Dylan Casey, and the Hall of Famer Hans Arnenson, thank you for joining us here on HDNet for the Little 500. A wonderful weekend, a unique spectacle in sport. Congratulations once again to the Cutters and the big sprint by Eric Young and the finish. The 59th Little 500 is in the books. We'll see you next year in Bloomington.
You've been watching an exclusive high-definition presentation of the Little 500 on HDNet.